Okay.
So,
Shelly.
guys,
I was just playing around with the intro. I did it a couple days ago and then I thought I'd finish it off today or whatever. Anyways, hey everyone, all 13 of you. Hey there,
woohoo.
Adam, there's your lucky number. Anyways, hi you guys. Today's live obviously is going to be about Rachel Morin, the mother of five that was sadly unalived, we'll say. And of course, and then the JonBenet Ramsey thing. And that's more or less to do with the court TV thing that came out yesterday in regards to that. So let's see. I can't even remember. When did we do a live last week? Sometime.
Friday.
Did we do one on Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, today's Wednesday. Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
good 5 or so days or whatever. Yeah, I totally forgot that Monday was our holiday, and I was like, husband didn't want to go fishing. I think on Sunday or whatever, so we went on the Monday instead. And then guess what? I caught a little fishy.
Aw.
Yeah, a little fishy. Well, it was bigger than his fishy that he caught the last time we were fishing. But I just want to tell you something kind of funny about that. So I was sitting there, after a while, I thought, I'm gonna pull out my phone and I'm just gonna look at some YouTube videos, like nothing major, because I don't really like using my phone at all. I'm always using my computer or my iPad, but when we went fishing, I just took my phone with me. So I threw out the rod, cast the rod, and sometimes I'll leave it in the little stand thing, and other times I'll just hold it in my hand. So I hold it in my hand and I hold the wire so in case I feel a tug. So I'm looking down and I'm watching a video or whatever. I must have been deeply involved in this video because my husband looks at me and goes, you have a fish on your hook, right? Or on your line. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, fish. You have a fish on your line. And I'm like, oh, I must have been so deeply involved. So I'm like, okay, yank, right? And I feel something on there. And I'm just like, oh crap, okay, reeling it in. But this particular spot is kind of, I want to call it weird because it keeps snagging your line a lot of it, even though it's not like it's weeds, it's more like it's sand. But anyways, so I'm reeling it in and I'm like, oh, it went very light. And I thought, oh, I lost it. And I was like, oh no, there it was on the sand right there coming in. So it wasn't, it was a white fish and it was about yay big. So yeah, it was bigger that I know than my husband's that he had caught, but it still was small. But we just take them and we just put them back in the water on there.
So,
But
I mean, for a whitefish, that's pretty good.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, like I said, yeah, it was about the yay long. All I know, I mean, I do have a picture of it with my husband holding it, but I just couldn't believe that I had this fish on the hook that was bouncing my rod. And I was too busy watching a YouTube video. I didn't even notice myself. Like it took my husband to tell me that I had one, but I couldn't believe it because I had it in my hand. Anyways, so it was a whitefish. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys again. Nice to see you. We'll do some hellos quickly here. And Shelly's in the house. Unsolved Mysteries in the house. Hi, Anna. How are you? Rachel Morin had the bee stung lips. Oh, that RH Gilgo seemed to like. Obviously, no connections to Morin's case, just dumps. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You can't help not notice fake puffy lips that have injections in them, and then they become those big fishy lips. I call them. Um, Not a fan. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of overly huge lips that are. I'm not a fan of anything that's noticeably cosmetically done. Myself personally, but hey, each to their
When we hit 20,000 subscribers, I'll get injections into my lips.
own. I'll get injections into what I call the 11 lines right
So
there.
they can be like,
Okay, that's bad.
I'm not
But I
making
guess,
fun of Rachel.
yeah, no, I just in general, I'm just I'm just not a fan of that whole false
Right.
look kind of thing. It's kind of like almost when somebody strips their face away, then all of a sudden it's
Right.
like, ugh. Like not.
Have you ever seen there's a Muppet that looks like that with the
Oh yeah,
lashes and then
yeah,
like the
yeah,
big lips and she's like
yeah. You know, I vow that maybe one day I probably won't, but
YouTube creator
maybe
too.
yeah. I've never worn false eyelashes like ever.
Me either.
Um, but I can understand why females do it because they want, like the eyes, they want them to be pronounced. And Ray probably loves it. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure Ray said that he's tried them before. Just during one of
You
his
know, I
experiments.
I tried Botox one time.
Did you?
it was 3 years ago, and I never did it again. Um, I didn't do very much, but it was expensive, and I didn't notice a huge difference, so I never did it again. But
Can I ask you where? Was it in
oh,
your
I
lips?
just did it in, like my I just did it because I have like
Oh,
see
lines.
those yeah
Yeah. You guys, if you guys can tell, Adam's at home, and I'm not sure if you guys can tell, and let me know in the chat because he comes off very pixelated to me tonight. I told him it's because he's not used to being at home, but he definitely has more of a pixelation look going on. It's okay at the second, but it's still no, it's still pixelated a little bit, but it's not horrible, horrible.
Well,
But anyway,
if
hey
it gets too
Kristen,
bad, I'll just go off camera. And
yeah. Well, we're going to be playing a video in a minute anyway. True Crime Housewife. Hey, Mustangs in the house. Cali girl. Let's see. And Streamlabs, of course. What did I say? Oh, there's Jerry. Hi, Jerry. How are you? And Sharon Parker. How are you, Sharon? Um,
you
and
have really good
Daniel
skin.
Kelly.
So you have really good
Pardon?
skin. Like you have really good skin. I think I have good skin. The only thing that bothers me is like this, like the little lines around the eyes.
Oh, I don't have much of those, but don't forget that I have a filter on top of mine, right, which gives off that
I do
soft
not.
light. Yeah. I've made no qualms about that because the filter is just kind of like a woman's best friend. Once I found it on Snapchat, Snapcam, sorry. I just was like, thank you. Thank you. But then Snapcam stopped doing Snapcam. And the only reason why I still have Snapcam is because somebody did a patch for it. So I was like, thank you. Because I like sometimes to be a piece of corn or a piece of popcorn.
I'm
Sometimes,
jealous of that. I wish I had that, but it was
yeah,
gone before I realized it was a thing.
yeah. Some people here don't know, but in Snapcam, like sometimes I'm a potato, right? Like I said, the popcorn and stuff people like. Um, yeah, and I haven't done those too much. Um,
StreamYard will eventually add filters. You know they will.
well, you know what? That's funny that you say that because I was watching somebody's live about a few weeks ago, and the person said something like, "Thank you to StreamYards for adding filters," and I'm like,
Oh wait,
"Where?"
I got an email. Wait, I think I did see an email about that, but I didn't look at
Yeah,
it.
I I
Right.
personally don't know. Hey, that's a different Shelly. Hi, Shelly. Okay, let's see here. Oh, hey, Jeff, how are you? Botox causes pixelation.
That's
Hey,
that,
buddy.
that's the goal, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Sadly,
Um,
Jeff. Sadly, that was in 2019.
Yeah. Good to be here. Yeah, dog's face. Okay, you guys, so let's get started. We're at the 10-minute mark. That's good enough. We'll get into our thing. So I'm basically going to play my video that I put out for Rachel Morin the other day. That's the first one that we're going to talk about. So that's going to be about 13 minutes long. For any of you that don't know, again, who Rachel Morin is, just watch this video. It's a very sad, again, very sad, tragic. Remember, there was that other case on the hiking trail as well.
in
Remember?
Arizona.
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah, I
You
never heard
and
the outcome of that. I mean, I heard there was someone arrested, but I
yes,
never heard what really happened with that one.
yeah. Well,
But with Rachel's case, I have to say, I don't think it's gotten the attention that I think it deserves because I think it's a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more complicated than a lot of
well,
people think.
you know what? Yeah, and I haven't. I'm not going to sit here and be accusing anybody of anything yet. She, a lot of people are already accusing the new boyfriend that had just updated his status and stuff like that. But anyways, um,
And
yeah,
I don't get that vibe for some reason. But let's watch the video.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me just share screen, and this is the video again off of the channel. Let me just take us off screen, and I'll make that bigger, and then I'm just going to play it from the start, you guys. Whatever it says, I'm just going to simply play it. Okay, so make it bigger. Okay, you guys, so this story is about Rachel Morin, a mother of five who at first was reported missing on Saturday, and then the next day it turned into a tragic event, and her body was found on the Ma and Pa hiking trail in Bel Air, which is in the Hartford County of Maryland State. Now, unfortunately, on Sunday, her lifeless body was discovered about 1 p.m. Authorities are conducting an investigation to unravel the circumstances surrounding her mysterious death, leaving the local community, of course, in shock and seeking answers in this unsettling incident that's involving Rachel Morin. So let's listen to the press conference that they had yesterday first.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming up this evening. There's days I absolutely love being the sheriff of Hartford County. This is not one of those days. We're here to follow up on what I think our entire community knows, sadly, what is a homicide along the Ma and Pa Trail here just outside the town limits here in Bel Air that happened sometime early this morning or today. But at approximately 11:23 last evening, our deputies responded to a report of a missing person. It was reported by the individual's boyfriend that Rachel Morin, who's age 37, had headed out from her home on Old Emerton Road around 6 p.m. to go to the Ma and Pa Trail. Once she had not returned as and when expected, the family was obviously concerned. Initial information from the boyfriend, again, the caller who reported her missing, indicated her car was at the lot at the trailhead here on William Street, behind like where Independent Brewery is, the people that are familiar with Bel Air.
Okay, so this is the entrance that he's speaking of. So this is William Street here, and this is the Ma Heritage Trail here in Bel Air. And as you can see, the trail goes up there and goes throughout the trees. So, of course, this is where Rachel Morin had entered. So if we come down here just to give you a bird's eye view of the area. Okay, so this is the parking lot right here where she would have parked. Her vehicle would have been here, and she would have been going down over there, just like these other people here that were going into the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail. So, again, if I exit the street view a little bit, just to give you a better, closer look here. So, again, I'm not exactly sure where her body was found, but this is the trail, and this is the entrance where they would have been talking about.
The car was there, but she was not. During the initial search, again, deputies did locate her vehicle at the William Street entrance. The vehicle, during the investigation, was towed to our CID building up in Forest Hill, where it will be processed for any and all evidence. At that time, last evening, an extensive search of the trail and surrounding area followed. A notice to the public was put out by this office, by our Office of Media Communications. That has had over 11,000 shares, and I'm going to touch on it a little here, but always thankful to our citizens here in Harford County who assist us in solving so many crimes by sharing information as good as. That's one of the good side of social media. The bad side is there's also been a lot of false or early information shared that we don't want to see. We don't see false news out there. We also don't want to see information getting out before family members are informed that it could jeopardize the case. So we always, along with thanking the public, ask the public to be careful in what they share in their comments to make sure it's factual and based on information that we have put out here from the Sheriff's Office. While it was all of our hope, certainly mine and everyone standing up here with me, and the men and women of our office and all of our citizens, that Rachel would be found safe, at about 1:07 p.m., a citizen called 911 to report a female's body had been located off the trail. At that time, it was obvious that this person was deceased. The investigation went from a missing person investigation to a homicide investigation. While we firmly believe this is the body of Rachel Morin, that final determination, that final say belongs with the medical examiner, and that has not happened yet. And that's one of the things that's being shared out there on social media, that in fact it's factual, which I will admit here standing at the podium that that's the way this is going to go. But again, we have to let the process do what it's supposed to do. We understand this homicide causes a lot of concern for us, for our partners in the allied law enforcement agencies, and the safety of our citizens. The trail is one of our major Parks and Recs assets that runs through a lot of parts of the different through Harford County, and we understand that this is going to cause a lot of concern. The crime scene down there has been processed. The trail will be reopened. It was closed during crime scene processing, but trail's always been. We've had minor incidents, but it's always known to be a pretty safe place. But with that in mind, and with this incident in mind, the trail is going to reopen. In the immediate future, already starting, we will have increased police presence along the trail, all portions of the trail, while this case remains under investigation. And again, I got to thank our citizens. Many of them have written or called in with tips, social media tips. Each one of those tips is and has been or will be followed up on. We are going to be very careful with what we say in the early stages of this very active criminal investigation. So there's very little I can share as far as details of what investigators have seen and learned. But I will say, if you think you have just the smallest tidbit of information, you solve something, and this young lady's travels yesterday to the trail, on the trail, investigators would like to talk to you and have that information.
It came to a tragic end earlier today when a missing woman in Harford County when neighbors found her body at a local trail in Bel Air. WMAR 2 News' Janae Wright has the details of how she was found.
The Bel Air community is now mourning the death of 37-year-old Rachel Morin after her body was found on Ma and Pa Trail Sunday afternoon.
That something like this should not happen in Harford County.
Officers say Rachel Morin left her home around 6 p.m. Saturday and went over to the Ma and Pa Trail. Around 11 p.m., officers say her boyfriend reported her missing, which is when a search began for Rachel. Just after 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon, police got a call saying a woman's body was found on the same trail.
We firmly believe this is the body of Rachel Morin. That final determination, that final say belongs with the medical examiner, and that has not happened yet.
The call came in from Michael Gabrzeski, who says he joined the search after hearing about Rachel's disappearance. He says his daughter was friends with Rachel. He and his daughter and a friend found Rachel's body in a drain.
And I kept telling them to search the tunnels because I had a feeling about those tunnels. And I walked forward to search the one tunnel, and they searched the one, and that's where they found her.
Michael says the state they found her body in led him to believe she was murdered. Neighbors concerned about what may have happened to her after finding out her body was found.
I was just really sorry for the woman. And then I also heard that she had a family, she had children. So that's really tragic.
Michael says although he's devastated to find Rachel the way he did, he's hoping the family can find closure.
To bring her home so she can find a final resting place in her family, that door can be finally closed and they can get the investigation on and hopefully catch the person that did this trifling act.
Many people are saddened by Rachel's death and are hoping police soon find whoever killed her.
I hope they prosecute to the fullest extent of the law.
Anyone with information that may help investigators solve this case is encouraged to reach out to the Harford County Sheriff's Office or the Bel Air Police Department. In Harford County, Janae Wright, WMAR 2 News.
Signs. Police have no suspects or motive. They will only say the body showed obvious signs of trauma. They're hoping autopsy results will help them find her killer. Sheriff's deputies on ATVs now patrolling the Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air. The stepped-up police presence is in response to finding the body of 37-year-old Rachel Morin Sunday just off the path. Police have ruled it a homicide and warn hikers there's still a threat to public safety.
We do not have someone that we can say is a solid suspect. And, not knowing if this was or was not a targeted event specific to Rachel, then we are going to say, yes, be aware, be thinking that, there could be somebody out here who this was a random event.
Hikers appreciate the added patrols.
It does make me feel a little better that the police are, making sure that we're safe, and we've seen them on the trail.
It seems like a shock to the community. It's definitely not something I think this far north that happens very often.
According to police, Morin, a mother of 5 and fitness enthusiast, was last seen around 6 p.m. Saturday when she went for a walk and jog on the trail. Morin's boyfriend reported her missing around 11:30 p.m. and advised her car may be at the parking lot of the William Street trailhead. Police also asked the community to help in the search. Around 1 p.m. Sunday, someone called authorities saying they found a body off the trail. Police confirmed it was Rachel Morin.
Part of the investigation is going to be tracing back her steps from the last time she was seen to when she arrived at the trailhead, because that's where her car was discovered.
Rachel's sister, Rebecca, created a GoFundMe page to pay for a funeral and memorial fund. She wrote on the page, "This was not an accidental death, and she did not go willingly, and she deserved a funeral worthy of her beauty. If there are any remaining funds, they will go toward things her 5 children may need." Police say the community is really stepping up by providing tips.
I think we do stuff a lot as a community, and we stick together and finding someone, and we're trying to find details and clues as to what happened and what we can do and stay together and just keep the love growing.
Police ask anyone with information about this case to give them a call. The number is 410-836-5430.
Sorry, I was muted as I was talking. I'm getting rusty. Anyways, so first off, Adam, yeah, that sucks, dude. Sorry about, I didn't even know you had a tornado there.
Yeah, the tornado was like, it was not like I wasn't in the tornado. It was near where I was, but yeah.
It's still called
it sucked.
havoc. So
but everyone was safe, well, 2 people died, but not right here.
Yeah. So you had a customer that you were working on?
Yeah, I was literally, I just put her hair color on when the power went out. And so we had to sit there in the dark until her color processed. And then I rinsed her and I cut her hair because it was still daylight out. So I just went by the window and cut her hair. And I was like, well, just let me know if it's not great.
Wow. Right. I know. So yeah, that must have sucked, but anyways, okay. So this again, very, very sad, tragic case, you guys. Rachel Morin had 5 children. 5 children. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think she was 37.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. 37 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 children. She had recently started a relationship with the gentleman there. And the relationship was only a couple weeks old. Now his name is Richard Tobin. Now, Richard Tobin, he did make it known as well to the media, because of course people were going right for the throat. Typically, was what happens when the sleuth, some of the sleuths get at it. He did make it known that he does have a history, like he does have a past history of, multiple charges. But he is the one that had called in to report her missing. Now, when I was listening to Jennifer Coffindaffer a couple nights ago, she felt like it was a targeted attack. And the reason why she felt like that is because the crime scene was, a crime scene for a few hours. And then they told the public to stay safe, to be, in pairs and stuff like that. And basically, if they really felt like there was something to worry about, typically they would keep that crime scene closed in a sense. And, in case, there's somebody out there that perhaps, and we don't know the answer. It's just, anyone's guess at this moment. But, Jennifer Coffindaffer being an FBI agent, dealing with cases throughout her life, so this would be a sign that was more a targeted attack. So it won't shock me if this was a targeted attack. What's your feeling, Adam, on it?
I have to say, I don't have anything to support this significantly. I don't think it was the boyfriend.
I don't either. I'm not getting that vibe either myself.
Right. One, they'd only been dating a few weeks. It'd be very rare that a normal relationship after a few weeks would result in something like this. 2, he voluntarily, I know, spoke to authorities. I saw an updated statement on YouTube from the sheriff today. I don't know when it was. I don't know if it was from yesterday or today, but I saw it today. And I didn't get the impression that that even the sheriff felt that it was the boyfriend, because he spoke about the danger to the community and how he has a daughter and he's a husband and father.
Yeah.
And how I feel like I do feel like this probably was targeted, but I do feel like it might have been more of a crime of opportunity. So when I say targeted, I mean probably she fit the description of something that was a fantasy to someone.
Could have been. Mm-hmm.
But again, that's just my speculation. I don't know all of the ins and outs of this case because, just like Delphi, they, the sheriff said they're holding a lot of cards close to their vest.
Yeah. And I'm just going to quickly show this. This is the one. This is the GoFundMe that has been set up for Rachel Morin, and it's at 40,787 at this point. And I'm just going to share that link in here. It should be in the description of this video. I'm pretty sure it is. Let's see here.
It gives me more confidence when I see a GoFundMe like this, because it was set up by the sister. So, because sadly we have to question where our money goes when some of these things happen these days.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. Right. And I know I was looking at a couple of GoFundMe's. A story that I want to make a video on actually is, I cannot think of her name. Why can't I think of her name? Miller. The wife that died the same day she got married. To her husband, to her husband Eric. Was it Rebecca Miller? Darn it! Sorry, guys. But because it's a case that I had heard about and watched, and I think the lady that's in jail for the drunk driving that took her life is Jamie Lee Cola.
The one in Folly Beach, South Carolina. They were on the golf cart and she hit them in the car.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite beach. That's local to where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that case is so sad.
Yeah. Well, there's two GoFundMe's for, uh, it's bugging me. It's bugging me that I
Her name,
can't
I
think of
think
her
her name
name.
is Rebecca.
Rebecca Miller, right?
I just saw an article on her today, so I should be hard to find.
No, the thing was is that I was on it a few days ago, but sorry, you guys. Sometimes when we're in true crime and we're looking at different names throughout the days, and I watch a lot of different videos, and sometimes the names just pop out of my head. I can picture her face, and I remember the last name being Miller, and I want to say it was Rebecca. Again, just a tragic story. Imagine just getting married, right? Imagine just getting married, and 5 hours later, your wife.
Samantha Miller.
Oh, Samantha Miller. Thank you. So my apologies for that, Samantha Miller. So I want to show you just how generous. This makes me smile. It truly does.
I mean, that case. It's funny because I didn't really think about that being true crime because I think it was like a drunk driving hit and run, but it is.
Correct.
Well, having just because of, I mean, I have walked the streets where that happened. I've been there a million times. It's my favorite beach, local at least, and the fact that they had just gotten married, 5 hours before that, it just broke my heart. And then he was in the hospital for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. Recovering. He's doing a lot better now. I mean, this only happened like about 4 months ago now. And
Yeah.
Pauline, sorry, it's not that you're posting a link. It's just that Streamlab, when you haven't put your punctuation in the right spot, and it comes off
If you don't
looking
leave
like
a space, if you put a period and don't leave a space after, it thinks you're posting a link. It's just because it's an automated thing.
Yeah. So that's why Streamlabs is saying that refrain from posting links. It's not that you're truly trying to. It's just that it picks it up that way. So again, you know what? The GoFundMe, I had the GoFundMe open. I could have saw her name right there, Sam. And the husband's name was Eric with an ARIC. But it's just, again, just horrific. It breaks my heart that people even have to cover true crime, because it just really breaks my heart in this world that these things happen. And I have a couple videos. I haven't made the video yet, but I have a couple videos of where her name is Jamie. I think Jamie Lee is the one that was drinking and driving. And there's a point there where she's like talking to her dad, and she's like, why didn't this happen to me? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why did it happen to you? Why did this have to happen to you? Like, I literally wanted to reach in my computer, give her a chokehold myself.
Right.
Like,
100%. Clearly, she didn't intend to do what she did, but nonetheless, she made the choices to drink and get behind the wheel, and it led to the death of this beautiful woman. And sadly, you know what? She has to suffer those consequences now.
Absolutely. To me, it's just appalling when somebody I mean, I get it. She's talking to her dad, and I get the fact that she's even saying that. But when you're saying that and then the public gets to see it, the reason why it's happening to you is because you chose to drink and drive, and you even rated yourself as an 8 out of 10 as being drunk. You went 65 miles an hour through a 25-mile-an-hour zone. You literally knocked a golf cart 100 miles, and it wasn't just her. Like, she died. Sam died in there. The husband, Eric, lived, and a couple of the other friends that were in the golf cart as well were in the hospital recovering badly from this tragic accident. But it's not even yes, it's an accident. And I think another thing that unnerved me when she was speaking, don't you dare call this a freak accident. This is not a
Right.
freak accident at
Right.
all.
And
This is an
and I have to say, sadly, it's it's horrible, but I get that when you're at the beach culture, people are
Yeah,
relaxed. Their ideas of responsibility can be different. Doesn't
yeah.
make it okay. So I have no sympathy for the driver of that car. Um,
I
like I said,
don't.
I know she didn't intend on taking Samantha's life, but she did, and she has to pay the consequences for it now. It, and like I said, and I've walked those roads. They're not. They're residential roads at the beach. There's not even lines,
Right.
separating lanes. I mean, there are houses on both sides. People are walking up and down those streets. There are golf carts all times of day and night on those streets, and there's no excuse to be driving 65 miles an hour on those streets of any streets that are residential. But
Yeah.
when you're at the beach, you expect people to be walking along the road.
You know, I, for one, am when it comes to drinking and driving, I don't have any sympathy for
Same.
the people that caused it because my ex-husband, his dad was killed by two ladies. Like, if you guys that live in Canada, or if you don't, my ex-husband was from Newfoundland in Canada, which is at the far end, Ponds Way from where my now husband is, England, and then Newfoundland is, just across the water there. So my ex-husband lived on one road in Norris Arm North, I believe it was called. One road, just to get home. Almost on his way home, he gets killed by two drunk drivers. Now, my ex-husband, he was 8 months old when his dad was taken away from him because of these two ladies that chose to drink and drive. We're talking one road, a
Right.
town that literally has one road.
And
And
and those
almost,
are the incidences where people think they can get away with it
yeah,
because because it's more accepted. And hey, and I'm not saying that I I've had too much to drink, and I've driven home before. I don't
mhm.
I would never do it again, but have I? Yes. You know.
You know, I, I've the one thing I will admit to is that when I was probably maybe about 18 or 19, and I knew that this is my first guy that I was with for 11 years. Um, we were at this girly bar, with little poles going down it, and well, it was guys and girls. And I knew that I called him dad because he was like a dad to me, was drinking, like we were all drinking. And I was so conflicted because in your head, you're like, you know, um, you're just like, okay, just this once. And
Right.
I never did it again. After that, I was so mad at myself for even allowing myself to be in a vehicle with a drunk driver. And this
I
is
did that as
prior
well.
to meeting. But it's just one of those things is that every one of us knows that drinking and driving can easily go the wrong way. You know what? To be honest with you, I'm sorry. I'd rather see someone high on weed than drinking and driving, to be honest with you.
Right.
'Cause you
Right.
don't really hear the people that are smoking the weed out there freaking, like, meaning, you know what I mean? You're still, you know, when you're drunk, people could become a whole different person. You're sloshy, you're just literally out of it. So let me put it this way. I
Right.
personally would rather see someone high and drinking or driving
Right.
than someone definitely drinking and driving, because drinking and driving, I'm sorry. I even had a good friend that died on Christmas Eve. On his way home from Edmonton to Calgary. He was like 15 years old. Him and his dad, again, drunk drivers, went right across the highway into their lane. And literally, we're talking right across the highway, where there's a patch in the middle, right there, smashed into the car. And I lost my friend Don Cool when he was like 15 years old. He lived right behind my house. And I'll never forget that. Every time Christmas Eve comes along, I always remember Don Cool. And I'm 54 now. And that's when I was 15 years old. But anyways,
and not that there's ever been an excuse for it, but in this day and age, in 2023, I mean, we have Uber, we have Lyft, we have cabs. I mean, like I said, there's never been an excuse to get behind the wheel after you've been drinking, but I mean, it's so economical and it's so easy to get a ride home at this point. You don't have to make that choice. So.
Well, look at this Jamie Lee, right? Oh, she's going to be doing some good old prison time because of her action.
Second degree.
Yeah. Poor her. No, not poor you. Sucks that you chose to make that decision, but I don't feel sorry for you for what gets handed down. No sympathy there. You took a family's life away. You took a husband's bride away. You literally ripped families, including her own, apart by her actions. So
and I know people that knew her because she's from Charlotte and or she lived in Charlotte. I'm not sure if she's from here, but I mean, it's just the whole thing is just tragic.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna move on from here, and I think we're gonna go over to JonBenet now. And again, prayers for all of the families there that are impacted by any of these tragedies. To be honest with you, again,
can I say one more thing about Jane? Or can I say one more thing? I do think that we're going to be hearing more about her case because this girl went jogging, and ended up being a victim of a homicide. And I see a little bit more convoluted, more of a convoluted case than a lot of people think.
For Rachel Morin.
Yeah.
Well, again, I've been checking to see if there's really been any updates on it as of yet. I do feel like someone's going to be arrested in the very near future. I do feel like that's coming. I'm hoping. Do you think so?
I don't know. I don't know enough details. Like if they have surveillance video, I feel more confident, or DNA. I of course feel more confident. But I don't feel like this was an immediate. I don't feel like this was a person that was in Rachel's immediate life, if that makes sense.
If let's just say that if it was, say, her boyfriend, which I don't believe it was, he's in the system. He's definitely in the system. I'm pretty sure that there would have been an arrest for him already if that was the case, to be honest with you. I think that would have happened by now if they had, I don't know, because, they can get DNA parts of it back right quickly. But anyways, we'll see how that one goes and plays out. Again, just tragic. 5 kids, don't have a mom anymore, all because someone took her life. Simple as that. Thanks, Bud.
And for anyone that doesn't know, I want to move on, but for anyone that doesn't know, the area that Rachel went was the victim of a homicide in is literally, it's basically a suburb of Baltimore, Maryland. So even though the town has a different name, it's essentially a suburb of Baltimore.
Yeah, Hartford County.
Yeah.
They call it Bel Air area or something. Yeah. That's not Bel Air like Bel Air, like that's not.
No, that's in California.
Okay. Couldn't help it. Okay, so
kind of like Miami County is not Miami, Florida.
Right. I know that sometimes those things throw me off because you guys like have a Richmond, like a Vancouver and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's like that's over here where I live. like Richmond, Vancouver, and stuff like that. So anyways, so we're going to get into the JonBenet Ramsey side of things here. Again, we'll just watch a little bit of it, and then you guys can tell me what you guys think after watching it, and we'll tell you what we think after watching it. Anyways, again, an old case, 27 years old, the JonBenet Ramsey case. Most of you guys would know of this case. It's been around for a long time. It's the one case that I always stuck in my head personally. And on this channel, we're going to be deep diving into the JonBenet Ramsey case. I have been living, eating, and breathing JonBenet Ramsey videos. And yeah, but I haven't put any videos out in regards to it. I was tempted to do today, but I thought when we did it live today, we'll play this court TV one. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to play some of it. We're not going to play all of it. I'm not going to play all 25 minutes, but we'll just start it off with some of it. Yeah. Right. Did you have anything before I play it, Adam?
No, other than clearly court TV has watched our last 2 lives.
Right, Vinny? Okay, guys. So we'll be back, and I'll stop it when I feel like it, to be honest with you. Okay.
A terrifying message scrawled across 3 pages.
It said, "We have your daughter."
A lot of things didn't make sense. Why would they leave a ransom note with her body still in the house?
My first impression was that this guy wrote the Magna Carta.
You will withdraw $118,000 from your account.
If I were kidnapping this guy's daughter, I'd ask for $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. So the amount of money is just really odd to me.
This ransom note from the beginning has been baffling, but I think most people agree it's connected to the killer, and probably, I mean, if it's not the killer, then who would have written this, right? Like, why would you write that note? But it wasn't even a kidnapping. It was a murder. She was still in the house. So take a look at the ransom note. This is, one of the most significant pieces of evidence in the case, and yet they haven't been able to connect anyone to it. So we've got Gary Oliva confessing in a letter and writing tons of letters to Michael Vale. So what we want to do is compare Gary Oliva's letter to the ransom note to say, hey, are there consistencies here? Does it look like the same person?
We're just going to have to stop some of it right here. Let me take this down for a second. Let's start with the fact that that Gary Oliva, the DNA does not match. They looked at him a long time ago. Like, there is multiple places where there was DNA that they don't have an answer for. It's not just one place. It's in a few different places. And so they feel, okay, you know what? Okay, fair enough. I'll play it out, and then we're going to come back to this specific letter. I'll play it out first a little bit.
I do want to say really quickly, I agree, Anna. Gary Olivia did not do this.
Again, we'll come back to it after.
I know.
I will hit play again. Yeah.
Could have or did write these 2 letters. So let's bring in our guest, still with us, Gary Oliva's former classmate, Michael Vale. Also joining us tonight, helping us a lot with all this in Salt Lake City, private investigator and great friend of the show, Jason Jensen. And helping us analyze these documents, forensic handwriting experts, Moselle Martin and Dawn McCarty. Great to have everyone here. Thank you so much. And I got to let everyone know, Jason Jensen is putting all this together and helping us so much. Appreciate it, Jason. But I'm going to go right to the experts, if you don't mind, who you helped put all this together. So I want to take a look at sort of like a layover kind of comparison that Moselle did. We have something we could put on the screen here, which compares the TH, the IF, the U, and some of the words here. Moselle, why don't you begin to explain this and what it tells you?
Well, for me, it's really about the nuances, the little things that are not common. It's important to look at the common similarities as well, but it's also important to look at the uncommon things. For example, a lot of the people who are at home armchair sleuths, they will look at it and say, oh, well, it doesn't visually look the same. But if you can, everybody kind of learned the same way in school to a certain extent. And so there's going to be some commonalities. So when you overlay them, though, some of these weird little strokes that are awkward, that are not common, like a little bend in the T stem or an arch in the H, those are unique to that individual. So when you overlay them, they line up so well. That's a really loud announcement in my profession.
Okay, Dawn, let's start going through some of the letters now. Let's start. This is like going back to school with the letter A and the comparison of the A. So what did you find in this comparison of the letter A? I think we're going to put it up on the screen. Do we have it? Here we go. All right. Tell us what we're looking at.
Sure. So when you look at these, you might think at first, oh, these don't look the same. One starts and one's, on a upward slant to curve over. However, if you lay these two over, if you take the blue A and you lay it over the black A, it almost lines up in that arch that bends around. You can see how they line up a little bit. And then there's also an indentation on that right-hand side, which I think is on another slide later, that you can see in the same location on both sides, both documents, those nuances or the anomalies exist. And that's what we're really looking for. Is it's easy to spot things that are similar, but what we're really looking for is those things that aren't really obvious, but we can still find. So that's why we really dig in and take our time with these analysis and dig up a little bit more, or dig through them a little bit more, so we can find those similarities and the dissimilarities, because we want to have a broad analysis. We want to know what's different. And then we also want to know, okay, so how many traits are similar, so that we can stack those traits. Because like Moselle said, some of us are going to have very similar writing because we learned in schools that taught us how to write the same letters. So that aside, as we grow, we start creating or start developing our own style, and our own personality comes out into our writing, where you can see someone else's handwriting and recognize, okay, yeah, that's my mom's handwriting. So that's what we're looking for beyond that. What else is in that writing that is unique to both documents?
So let's go through some more letters. Go through the letter C now. Let's take a look. Moselle, what are your thoughts about the C's?
Well, it's very interesting because the C's and the E's, if you just looked at those letters of Gary's, a lot of them resemble an E. But we have to look at, we have two different writing instruments. We have a Sharpie and we have an ink pen. So when you're comparing them, you're automatically going to have some residual stroking of the Sharpie, because it does automatically bleed into the paper weave a lot differently than the ink would sit on it. However, you can still see when you overlay them the same strokes, the angles, the hooks, the exits, they are still there, even though we have different writing instruments.
Let's go to the D's. Dawn, that's your first letter of your name. What do you think of the D's?
So what's significant about these D's, if you look how they're both written on each side, they start at the top. And now at the top on the question document, you see that black dot. That's because it's a Sharpie pen, and that ink is flowing as soon as it makes contact with the paper. So both these D's start at the top and they go all the way around and form that circle without stopping. There's no straight stem going down and then up and creating the loop. The loop, the stem goes down and it continues on and wraps around to form that D on the top one. On the bottom one, you can see how both of these traits are like a little triangle in that loop. So it's not a pure circle. Both, again, exist in both documents.
Moselle, we have here two L's together. Let's take a look at that and tell me what you think.
The L's, I was so excited when I saw the L's because it just has so.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I think I almost lost it when I listened to this one.
Yeah.
And then
I've
she goes
mentioned
on.
the L's because the L's always stand out to me.
For me personally, I personally, okay, let me just finish playing a little bit of what she says here.
So much difference in the visual aspect of it. But when we overlay them, I was so excited. I yelled at my husband. I said, "You have to see these L's," and he doesn't know anything about handwriting. But when you overlay them, there is just no denying that they are made with the same stroke. It has the same, the same bend in the stems. It has the same spacing between the stems that also line up. So they are very distinct.
Dawn, take a look at the M's now. Let's go to the M's.
So go to your M's. I'm going back to your L's. Okay. We have the L's. Okay. Let's go back to the L's.
And I'll let you first.
Well, okay, so I'm going to say that this one personally made me laugh really hard because I even was writing some of this note myself. And to me, the L's to me are the least out of anything. Like, meaning most people make their L's this way. They put that much spacing in them. I'm sorry, but I would never go off of the L's unless there's something more significantly strange about them myself. So if I showed my husband this, just like she said as well, my husband would agree. He'd go, "Yeah, they look similar," because he,
Yes, they do.
Now, okay, so how do you, okay, and you guys, this is when, again, whether it's me or Adam or you guys out there, we're all going to have our own opinions about who did it, who didn't do it, what things. So with the L's for you in this particular case, tell me what you feel about the L's.
The reason the lowercase L's have stood out to me, and I want to point out the example they're using on screen right now is the one example of the double L's, because there are multiple times in the ransom note that there are multiple L's, or double L's used in words. This is the least consistent example of the way that the person writing the note wrote their L's. Because if you look at the majority of the note, the double L's have a much more crooked aspect to them in the lowercase when they're lowercase. The example they chose to use in this is the one that matched Gary Olivia's the most, which is why they chose this one.
Yes.
So when she says she's so excited by this, I'm like, well, you're excluding then the way the person that wrote this note wrote all the other lowercase L's, because the majority of them have almost an erratic squiggle to them. And it was one of the very first things that's always stood out to me in the note, because it also doesn't match Patsy Ramsey's, the way she writes her lowercase L's. And that's the only reason that the lowercase L's have always stood out to me, is because they didn't match Patsy Ramsey's, in my opinion. And then when I saw this example, I was like, they used the one time in the ransom note that the person didn't use this erratic squiggle in their lowercase L's to compare it to Gary Olivia's. So in my mind, it's like confirmation bias. They're going off the idea that, and I'm sorry, I think Jason Jensen is a crackpot. I have said it multiple times. I don't usually take that strong of a stance on people, but this guy, if you go to his website, he's a private investigator out of Utah. You go to his website, his claims to what he's done are insane. He has made up information about Delphi. I think he's making up information about JonBenet. I don't trust a word Jason Jensen says, and I never will. I think he's self-serving. and I think he's
I
a
agree.
bad actor.
I agree. I absolutely believe that he is self-serving myself. I don't know a lot about him. I know that he's inserted himself into the Delphi case and he's inserted himself into the court TV. And they had Chris Todd on there who wrote that book with Delphi. And of course, everyone claiming that Ron Logan is the BG. I'm sorry, anyone that thinks that Ron Logan was the BG is the BG, honestly, needs to go smack their head on a wall about 1,000 times. And even then, I don't know that common sense will be knocked into it. But at the end of the day, again, you know, what I was going to say about this whole panel here that's on court TV, everyone, including Moselle there, Moselle Martin, and then I think the other lady's name was Dawn, and, you know, and then Vinny's going like, oh, wow. I mean, to me, these were the worst layovers that I ever seen. For putting C's and A's. It was like, are you kidding me? You know, it's one of those things, unless you do the homework yourself, right? So this to me is not rocket science as a person. I think that any individual, okay, out there, myself personally, that is capable of using their brain cells and looking at a ransom note and then looking at Gary Oliva's letters or his that he's put out there, most of them being in capital letters. Now, also in this video, in the court TV video, I want you to note that that Mike guy that believes, and I get that these people actually believe that they're probably right, and that's fine because we all agree, like we all can have our own opinions, okay?
Absolutely.
So whether Jensen there, you know, is off his rocker, or whether Moselle thinks that she's right with her writing, I personally think that these people are so far off base myself. But hey, I wanted to listen to it anyway, just to see, okay, is there something here I'm missing? Now, I mean, there are a few things in there about Gary, about the fact of 13 houses down and he picked up his mail from there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For me, okay, whatever, but his DNA hasn't matched. And this to me is, I think, even though I don't believe Patsy Ramsey wrote the ransom note myself, I still don't, I believe that hers is still closer than this Gary guy's writing, to be honest with you. And so Mike, the guy that has been
His
talking
friend.
to, pardon?
Gary's friend from
Well,
high school or
yeah,
middle school.
classmate. I know that he tried asking him, like, well, what do you deem him as? But we'll just say classmate or whatever. He had said when so on the longer version, and it could be on this version, basically he had a letter from Gary that he had unopened, and he opened it up on court TV. And if you guys notice, one of the things that Mike said was, oh, look, his handwriting is forever changing. It's like, oh, it's smaller and whatever this time. Okay. So I think of Gary as this, that is someone that's trying to insert himself in the case like that Mark, whatever his name, Mark Carr guy. Same thing. I think that Gary Oliva, I want to call him Olivia all the time. Gary Oliva.
Oh, sorry. I always say,
I know,
right.
because I know. I don't believe he did do it whatsoever. I think he's another person that's trying to insert himself. But it does, I mean, if it's true that he was getting his mail 13 houses down from the Ramseys, I mean, it does, those are like those little things that make you go, like, okay, so what were you doing there in that, you know? So, but to me, then again, you go back to DNA, and if the DNA at any point, I believe that this man would have been arrested for JonBenet Ramsey's something. If any of that DNA would have matched, but none of that DNA matched. And then on top of that, to me, and I'm going to stop the screen here because I don't really care about what they're saying anymore, to be honest with you. I'm just going to go bring up that letter again, share and window.
You know, can I say really quickly? I think that Gary Olivia or whatever, I think that he checks a lot of boxes when it comes to the profile of someone that would have committed this crime.
Yeah.
I don't think that he committed it. I find it interesting that he apparently made the claim on the phone to this Mike guy before it had hit the media that he
Right.
thinks he may have hurt a girl in Boulder that day, and his proximity to the crime is interesting. And I know that it's a hot button issue, but I think Gary suffers from most likely some mental issues. And I think that he might have an unhealthy obsession with JonBenet. In this case, when he was arrested or when he was detained at one point, he had multiple pictures of JonBenet with him, including autopsy photos. I think that he may even in his mind believe that the things he's saying, but he's made such outrageous claims in some of his letters to this Mike guy, even including the drawings of what appeared to be JonBenet cooking in a pot. I mean, he talked about how he was even interested in possibly eating her. And trigger warning, I'm sorry that was graphic, but I feel like this man is deeply disturbed. Absolutely. I just don't think he committed this crime.
And again, it really goes to, okay, for me, I'm going to say this. I thought Delphi was messed up. I think that this case is that same type of, that same way. I think that there's a lot of things that should make sense, and that it should have been solved. But after reviewing a ton of it in the last few days, honestly, 1 minute I'm thinking, okay, but this is so strange what the Ramseys did. But yet I don't feel it watching the interviews. So I'm going to say this, and especially to people that are watching this in chat. Again, nobody get their little panties in a little niche or anything like that. Everyone has the right to their opinions and what they're thinking. I think it's a very convoluted case. I think that there's just things that, you try to look this way and then something pulls you back on to this way. And it keeps for me going to the family, back off the family. But yet there's nothing for me so far that's honestly making me feel like Patsy or John or Burke had anything to do with JonBenet's, the death of JonBenet for me so far. Okay. I've watched, like I said, I've listened to, I am, like I said, focused on looking at their facial expressions as they're talking, listening to what they're saying. And I want to say this again, because I keep seeing this all over the internet. Patsy Ramsey is not ambidextrous. She literally states that she is not when she is asked about her left and her right hand. And I've seen her sample, which I probably have it in here, of her left hand writing versus her right hand writing. She has said, I'm not ambidextrous. I can use my left hand if I have to, but that's kind of like anyone. And I know too that when somebody's writing left-handed, things, when you're writing with your wrong hand, especially if you're not ambidextrous, everything is more of like, what do you want to call it? Like crooked strokes. You can see almost like the jitteriness of the line in there, because I can use both hands. I'm left-handed, but I can use both hands. But do I consider myself ambidextrous, a true ambidextrous person? No. I can write if I have to, definitely, with my right hand. Is it going to come out looking like what my left hand does? Not even close, but it's legible. I can play sports with my right and left hand, but that's like some of us as well. But I wouldn't call myself a true ambidextrous. To me, a true ambidextrous person can easily go into their left hand or right hand and have that, because I was looking at examples of it and I'm like, well, I'm definitely not true ambidextrous. But anyways, all over the internet, you see where it says Patsy Ramsey is ambidextrous, and yet she has clearly stated that she's not. And then you're going to have those people out there that are going to say, well, she could just be lying and this and that and this. I've seen her left hand writing. I don't like, to me, you can only fake something so much,
Right.
you know? And I think
And
that's
a
become
3-page ransom note is difficult to fake.
a 3.5. So far, I'm just going to say that. So far, my gut feeling is that this was an intruder. And this intruder was either there previously to them getting home. And to me, it feels like it's someone that, this even actually could be two people that were involved in this, to be honest with you. Like when I say that, like a husband and wife type person, my instinct, and I know I haven't even got there yet, but my instinct was to go to the housekeeper. I was like, housekeeper, right? Because this feels to me like someone that literally is using things like 118,000. Okay. Now there was two talks about that. There was John's bonus, which John said that he's the one that actually brought that to the attention to them, that his bonus was around that same amount. He said that he actually was the one that let them know that. And the other one was that there was some guy that that they had let go that was around that same amount of money as well.
Right.
Again,
And the thing with that money, I'm sorry to interrupt, but really quickly, the thing that with that bonus, a lot of people get mistaken by the fact that a lot of people claim that was a Christmas bonus. That bonus that John Ramsey received for approximately $118,000 was actually given to him in January of 1996. So 11 months before the crime. The only reason that amount would have been publicly known if someone was in the house rummaging through things is because it was on every pay stub that John Ramsey received throughout the entire year of 1996, because it was something he received in January. It was not a Christmas bonus for
that Christmas. Yeah,
from
exactly.
1996.
Yeah. I heard him say that a few times about it being January. Like I said, pretty much almost
It was 11 months
a
before.
whole year. Really, it was like a week off of a year, basically. And it is really hard to keep up with the comments as we're trying to talk. So sorry, you guys. Unsolved Mysteries. Unsolved Mystery. There's somebody that emailed me, saying that they wanted that they would come on the live when we did a JonBenet. Was that you by chance? I'm not sure because it didn't use like a name. It just did you get that email? Okay.
I believe that I've emailed a few times with Unsolved Mystery, which invaluable information. So thank you so much.
Okay. Share it with me, perhaps forward me anything.
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think we got the same ones.
Maybe, not sure. Either or. At Crime and Shame is the main email for this channel. Adam doesn't see what's in A Crime and Shame, and I don't see what's in Aspen Connors. So
right.
I
think I saw your name on them. That's the reason I didn't send it to you.
Yeah, I all I know is that it wasn't signed by that name, so I wasn't sure.
Well, maybe not.
I don't know if it's. Did you say no?
Well, no, I was just looking at the emails.
Okay. So you guys, just quickly, Alexa has a lot going on right now. So me and her have talked, and she will let me know when she does have a time to do the JonBenet Ramsey case. Her children are sick, her husband's sick. They have a vacation that they're about to go on as well. They got a lot of stuff going on. So regardless, we didn't even know that we were actually going to do JonBenet tonight, to be honest with you. We're kind of like last minute people. But when Alexa is able to, she will come on, because Alexa, again, is a handwriting expert. She's a criminal profiler, and she is a body language expert as well. And as for, I think, Anna, that Anna Lisette, I do watch Pat Brown. I haven't seen her latest video. So I will go watch that after
Right.
and see
And
what
I don't
her.
always agree with her, but I'll watch it.
No, but what I like about Pat Brown, I like cut the shit out. Don't try to fluff up things. But what I've noticed is that sometimes some of them, like even Ken Maines, that they somewhat have a little bit what I call a puffy ego. Somewhat about their what they when they're doing videos and stuff like that. So I kind of think she has a little bit of a puffy ego. Same with Ken Maines and stuff like that. But I do like the bluntness of both of them, and
Right.
they're just kind of like, okay, this is what that's what I appreciate. And when I'm listening to somebody, not someone, I'm sorry, not someone like Tyler Feller who sits there and puts out a freaking, and then he released another one today going 100% proof. This is the person, right? Really? Okay. Are you going to step in court, Tyler Feller, and actually sit there and say that you have the 100% proof yourself? I really hate it when people write off stuff like that and try to act like, you know what? This is it. These people are 100% right. This lady's right. I'm going to put out this tag going across, clicks and views and stuff like that. Now, I know that he's a preacher boy type of guy and whatever. I don't care. To me, when you put out something like that, that's just trying to manipulate people with a title like that and sit there and claim 100%. I'm sorry. It just, stuff like that just irks me when I see that 100% proof that that Gary Olivia is whatever, and that this handwriting expert is right. Well, I'd like to see that handwriting expert and Alexa go to battle with it, because Alexa doesn't believe that Gary wrote the ransom note as well, and a lot of other ones don't either.
Right.
So,
and like I said, and when we're discussing this entire court, I mean, Vinny said it himself. This entire court TV segment was pretty much orchestrated by Jason Jensen.
It was, yes.
And Jason Jensen, for anyone that doesn't know, Jason Jensen is working for the defense of Richard Allen in Delphi. He is literally working as a private investigator for the defense team in the Delphi case. So
yeah,
he's trying to prove that Richard Allen did not do this. And
yeah,
like I said, I'm not going to attack the guy, but I don't personally, I could be, if I'm wrong, I will apologize, but I don't agree with him. And I think that he is a bad actor.
Well, I was going to say, we're like, a no bullshit channel here. We call a spade, and if we're wrong sometimes, then we're wrong. But
it's rare for me to take that strong of a stance.
Yeah, Adam usually doesn't do it. I'm usually the one doing that more so than Adam. But anyways, yeah, no. Again, whatever self-serving purposes some of these people have, each to their own, right? Meaning anyone can do what they want. It's their business. Doesn't mean that we can't say anything about it. I don't care. If anyone wants to sit there and come at me, go at me. I don't really care. Again, we're not here to sit there and try to blow smoke up your butt. We're just sitting here trying to talk about something, show facts, and talk about this now. But correct, to come out and say 100% proof that Gary, is the one that took JonBenet's life and whatever like that. Again, sorry, dude, so disgusting to me to like put that out. Honestly, I honestly just was disgusted. And then I seen instantly today a video pop up and say, like the same thing, almost like it's almost like watching this little boy sitting there gloating, like, I'm going to write off this, and whether he believes it's true or not, who knows? Whatever. That's a pretty, like I said, big bold statement there. I personally learned my lesson for saying 100%.
Right.
That's for sure. But anyway, let's quickly go into this note. I'm going to take us off screen Um,
And then
I
I
want.
do have and then I have a question for you. Don't just we
Oh,
don't have to talk about it now, but just remind me
go ahead.
later.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I'll
it's
do it now
completely.
before you forget.
Well, so a CJK had said something about the cobwebs in the chat,
Okay.
and I might have an unpopular opinion about. You've watched the videos and seen the pictures of the window that was open in the basement, right?
Yeah, the cobwebs.
Yeah.
Yeah, what with them?
I personally, in my opinion, I don't think that the cobwebs that were in that window would have prohibited someone from coming into that window.
I agree. I agree.
I think someone easily could have gotten through that window and not disturbed those cobwebs.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know personally that the person actually came in that way or
Well,
left
I
that
don't
way, to
either,
be
but I
honest.
don't. But when I see those pictures, and I see the videos of those cobwebs,
Yeah.
I don't understand the emphasis people have put on that in disproving that someone came in through that window.
I think it's
Because
like anything.
because we've seen Lou, we've seen the detective Lou Schmidt come, demonstrate how someone could come through the window, and I think someone could easily get through that window and not disturb those cobwebs. But that's my personal opinion.
um, Pauline, I'm just going to suggest take your typing a little slower and watch your punctuation. Then maybe Streamlabs won't hate you
Exactly.
so much. I agree with you, Adam. I'm neither here nor there on the cobwebs. I don't feel like that they had to be distracted. Again, I mean, that cobweb looks like there's little egg sacs in it. Again, we all know how fast a spider can make a web as well. Those pictures were taken the next day, but regardless, I don't think that to me either. I don't think that cobweb would have had to have been broken in order for somebody to get in myself either, if I deemed that they came in and went out that way. But no. The cobweb was minuscule and recessed in the far corner. There was also a piece of it hanging from the corner of the actual window. The cobweb was disturbed. Okay.
The one hanging from the window was, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's go. I want to go. Okay. So this obviously is Mike, the guy that he wrote to, which is the classmate guy. Okay. Now, if there's one thing that sticks out to me, Adam is a lot about the L's. I am more about the A's, as well as other different letters.
Yeah, the A's are significant.
Well, the A's are significant to me. So in
Good night,
in this
Ray.
letter to Mike, I can't see the chat right now. Night, Ray. Have a good night. Kisses. Okay. The A's, if you notice, okay. Now, typically when Gary writes, it's always like capital letters. Like everything he does is like these capital letters. Do I even have a sample of that? Like this. Okay. Okay. A lot of how he writes is like this, really big letters, all in caps. And Michael Vale is the gentleman that receives the letters. Now, I believe that he believes that Gary had something to do with JonBenet's, her murder. Okay. So let me bring this down again, bring this back out. Okay. The A's for me, every single A in Gary Oliver in his letter, every single A is done. What do you call it again? When the A goes over top. When you make the A over top. Is there a there's
an English major? I should know that.
Yeah, well, I can't think of what the term is, you guys. But anyways, the A that goes with the hook over top of it instead of like this one, okay? Right here. Whatever that A is called. Now, in every single word that has an A, that's what he does. But yet, if you look at the actual K, and then you're going to notice them in here, but you're not really seeing that full on hook on all of them. But a lot of the A's, if you actually go down like the entire letter, there's not always this hook on there. Like this one right here is just a regular A. Then this one goes into the hook. Then this one has a little hook. This one has a kind of partial hook. And there's a lot of letters that are simply, they look almost, it's so weird. Whoever does these A's puts a little hook typically on top, not the actual full-fledged hook like this one.
Yeah.
But if you actually go through the letter, okay, there's many times where the A is just normal, like a normal down one. And then there's times where it has the actual bigger hook on it. And with
the T's are quite different as well sometimes. The lowercase
well,
T's.
The thing is, this person, and I do this sometimes with my T's, but not always. The person that wrote this letter definitely has, they do the T's differently, but they definitely do spend a lot of time as well. And I do the same thing. I do some T's straight up and down, and then some of them will have the hook on them. That, as you know, like that little, whatever you want to call it, upside down candy cane hook or whatever it's called. Now, there's nothing in this letter that Gary wrote that speaks to me, that's crying out to me, that says that person, Gary, wrote the ransom note.
Right.
I mean, I know what was funny is when they pulled up an example of the 1997, and Gary's 7 was where it has a hook at the bottom, you know, type of 7, and then you know how some people would just do a straight line across and down, and then his was like up, across, and down. I mean, like I said, Patsy Ramsey's, if anything, her 1997 was precision. But then I looked at my own 1997, and if anyone saw my 1997, they would agree that it looked like Patsy Ramsey's, just like this right here. That's exactly how mine basically looked, because I was spending time writing this out just to see how similar my writing was. And I think that some people would find some similarities. Go ahead.
I mean, and look how he makes his ones. I mean, he makes a proper one. I mean, Gary, I mean, whereas in, you know, I mean, the ones in the ransom note, they're much more, you know, casual, I'll say.
Well, you know, and I was going to say, I know that this is just a fragment of somebody's writing or printing.
Right.
This is more of a printing one.
Right. And it is a pen. It's not a Sharpie, but still a felt pen, it makes a difference, but it doesn't change your style of writing. It'll change the, you know, the impression that the pen leaves, or the ink leaves, but it won't change your style of writing. So it won't make you write an entirely different A.
You know, and this is Unsolved Mystery and Adam, myself here. For me, I'm very perplexed with this ransom note, to be honest with you, because this ransom note definitely has signs of when you look at the full ransom note, it's very consistent to me in how it looks. Trust me, unless you're truly ambidextrous, there's not a person in this world that's going to spend 2.5 pages consistently using their wrong hand.
Agree.
However, there are signs of manipulation in the lettering.
There are,
and
I think especially in the language.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, like, look at these W's. Like, these are weird W's. This isn't someone smoothly writing a W, you know? And see, that's how I would probably do a W, something similar, if I was using my wrong hand.
And look at and then the lowercase l next to that W is kind of the example with a squiggle, is kind of that example that I was saying with the lowercase l's. Look how squiggly those lowercase l's are in the word will.
Okay, so
where you will withdraw.
Oops. You will. Oh, right here. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like that. If now again, like there's certain letters. So it's kind of like I'm torn. I'm really torn because I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm going, okay, first of all, I'm trying to decide. Okay, tell me in chat. Do you believe the person that wrote the ransom note is left-handed or right-handed? Because I was trying to look for that answer. Unsolved Mystery, did they ever come out and say specifically that the person was left-handed or right-handed? And Adam, if you had to guess, would you say this is a left-handed or right-handed person?
Right-handed. Funny.
Sorry, I muted myself. Why do you think no, she's not ambidextrous. She literally said she was not ambidextrous. And I believe
if you look, I mean, for me, a right-handed person is naturally going. If you look at at the bottom of the ransom note that's on the left-hand side of the screen, the first word in the bottom paragraph is the word "you," and if you look at the capital Y, in my opinion, a left-handed person is not going to make a consistent stroke in the left direction when writing the capital letter U.
the U or the Y?
The Y. I mean the I'm sorry, the Y.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
If you if you're left-handed, Sonny. So if you write a capital Y,
I do
when
it.
you write the capital Y, does your Y go to the left?
Like that. Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
It does, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like that would be opposite of what you would want to do with your left hand.
Okay, here, hold on a second. If I was to do a Y, I'll just do one really quickly. I'll do a couple. Okay. If
I feel like this is a right-handed person.
And you know what? I was starting to think it was a left-handed person. But again, I'm just looking into it. And another reason why is because of the V in individuals. That as a left-handed person, I would typically go down and then up, and my right side of my V would be higher. But again, let's just see here. Hold on. Let me just see if I can come back on the screen. So I'm not sure if you can see that. So if I did a Y, whoops.
No, I saw it. So I'm not left-handed, so thank you. So maybe you're right.
This is the joy of when you're left-handed and right-handed, is that, you have someone like me who's left-handed and someone like Adam Adam, are you right?
Yeah, I'm right-handed.
Yeah, you're right. And then you start looking at this stuff. So again, unless there's someone that specifically said that this is right-handed. So the reason why I was writing out the note today is, one second, put that back up on the screen.
Grant, I will say, if I were to, this is how I make my capital Ys. So
okay,
I don't know.
Okay.
So I do I do 3 strokes.
I do 2 strokes. Oh, you do 3 strokes.
I do 3 strokes. I do.
Now, this one here in the ransom note is 2 strokes.
Yeah.
And to me, and this is just me, and again, to me, this person has started off, with the smaller stroke and then went down.
Sorry, Unsolved Mystery.
I hear left-handed people are not in their right mind. Oh, that's actually we're in better minds than the right-handed people, to be honest with you. It's funny because I know that there's more left-handed people out there today, because back before I was born, and my moms, they would literally force you to go to your right hand instead of your left. So there probably should be more lefties in the world. But again, my mom, they tried to get us to do that, but my mom said nope. And my twin sister is left-handed as well. And if you've seen my sister's writing, just picture a whole page tilting to the left. And
Right.
the thing about left-handed people is that we're too busy smudging our words because
Right.
when we use
Because they,
pens,
because,
yeah, it's but my twin, literally, like you could tell she was left-handed because she literally slants as she's
okay.
writing across the page. It literally slants on a 45-degree angle, I swear. So
You want, sorry. You
no,
want to talk about
go ahead.
handwriting that I would like analyzed because I just recently saw it again. And I don't know if you're right-handed or left-handed, but wow. Brian Laundrie's, when they released the note recently.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, the entire thing, he like writes in a curve.
Oh yeah,
His letter to about Gabby.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. Like the curve or the swirls.
no, the whole thing. It's like
I'm trying to remember.
The whole thing. It's like he writes every word, and it's like this, like the pattern of the words. They go up. Like
Gotcha,
an arc.
gotcha. Yeah. Can you please keep us updated on this case? You talking about the Ramsey case? Because if so, oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm okay. So first, I'm sitting here myself trying to determine if this person is left-handed or right-handed. In my gut so far, I'm going to go with left-handed more than right-handed at the moment. And it's only because I see a lot of similarities to my printing. And my printing is somewhat like it's, trust me, when I am writing fast, you're going to see printing just like that on the left-hand side. When I am taking my time, you're going to see, okay, let's see, you're going to see more of a nice structure to it. Okay. I can't know if you can see that or not. But anyways, you're going to see a nice crisp when I'm taking my time doing it. But when I'm doing it faster, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. It's not going to be so pretty. Even though that's prettier. That's definitely prettier than when I'm doing it. Okay. So that was one thing I was trying to determine by looking by, and this is of course trying to associate it to Patsy Ramsey or John Ramsey or even this Gary person. But
Gary is clearly right-handed.
To me, Gary is right-handed. First of all, where it says it was nice, it's totally on a right-handed slant, going over that way. But there is nothing to me. Okay, let me just make it bigger again. There is nothing to me, including the eyes, because in the eyes, and again, you guys, I'm only showing you the example. You guys know that there's 2.5 pages worth of letters to look at. Now, and what I was trying to say before is Alexa will always say she's not a forensic. What's the word? Calligrapher. We always forget it. Graphologist. Okay, she doesn't do the pressure, anything like that. Hers is about looking at somebody's handwriting, and then she can tell you kind of like what L's mean and K's mean and different things. Right. But I think that still most people with any brain cells whatsoever can literally go themselves, put the letters together, and look at the different styles between the two. And I think that they can come up with a pretty observant idea whether or not somebody is very consistent, because you're not just going to look at the A's. You're not just going to look at the L's. You're going to look at the S's. You're going to look at so many things within it. Are they similar? Just like you're going to look at things that aren't similar. And one thing you typically don't see in Patsy Ramsey's handwriting, or her printing or her handwriting, you don't really see the T's do that curve to them. The extra hook.
And they're
just more, they're just more straight up and down. But you don't really see this type of T in her writing. So at this moment for me, I personally feel that it was somebody.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay. I personally feel myself that somebody that either was jealous of, here I'll put it, someone that was jealous of the Ramseys, somebody that knew the Ramseys, like somebody that, somebody that knew the Ramseys, I feel is the person that did this. And
Maybe not well.
Maybe not well, but to me, this was a jealousy thing almost. I feel, I don't know. Like that's where like I said, I've been listening to, even double listening to video interview after interview with Burke, with Patsy, with John. I've been watching their facial expressions. There's nothing in me that's telling me they might have done stupid things, but there's nothing there that's telling me or showing me that they took part in the killing of their own daughter, not over bedwetting, not over any of that stuff. I see this as a personal attack towards the family. I don't even know that it's a whole pedo thing, to be honest. I don't know. I don't.
I think that the motive could have been partially driven by a personal issue with the Ramseys, but I think that part of the staging and part of like all of the stuff with the scene, I feel like it does lead to there being a sexual aspect to their mindset with JonBenet. I don't know if that's primary or secondary, but a lot of people, don't like to mention at this point that, look at Delphi. If you want to think about the people that have significantly been persons of interest in law enforcement's eyes, they try, a law enforcement officer's job is to prove the person they suspect to have committed the crime. Boulder police immediately, day one, Linda Arnett herself has said the moment she looked into John Ramsey's eyes, she felt like she should put her hand on her revolver. Yeah. If the Ramseys had committed this crime, either John, Patsy, or Burke, the Boulder police wanted to prove that, and they tried really hard. But the DA, what is it, 2009 or whatever, the DA, or 2013, that the DA finally came out and cleared them, cleared Patsy, they cleared John, they cleared Burke, and said they did not have involvement with this. I don't feel like a DA would have made such a bold statement unless they conclusively 100% know that the evidence they have does not support any inclination that the family was involved. The DNA didn't match. There's no motive. It's anything that is considered to be about the family is speculative.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But a DA is not going to come out and make a statement like that lightly.
Well, let's say one thing. Okay, there's definitely a few things that stand out to me. One of them is why. Let's just say that by chance someone's seen, like, again, this is somebody that would have known the family, perhaps known about the bonus. This ransom note to me, first of all, is just a crock of horse shit. That's all that this ransom note is to me. It is, to me, very telling in a sense of what they're trying to do here. Like, first of all, they go from we to I multiple times throughout the ransom note. First, they're talking about we, the small faction. Then they're talking about I. Then they go back to we. Then they go back to I. Tell me what person in their right head, and I know people can think differently about this. Go right ahead. I'm not going to sit there and target myself at all. if I had any involvement by putting out there that I had $118,000. It's a ridiculous number. This number was put in there for a reason. And I'm sorry, but no Ramsey is going to sit there and go, Lama, you know what, let's just go by my bonus number and let's just make them look at me. Let me make them look at myself. And another thing, John Ramsey, okay, they were exonerated back in like 2008, I believe. 2007, 2008.
Okay. I think I said 2009 or 2013, but
yeah, I think it was 2007 or 2008. Okay, John Ramsey is still fighting for justice for his daughter.
Yes.
Honestly, most people would be skirting themselves underneath the rugs. They're not going to sit there. Trust me, okay? This is where people sometimes, to me, get off their little rocker there, because you would have to be a really sick, twisted person, and there are sick, twisted, but John Ramsey is not one of them. And to sit there and keep fighting for DNA to, you know, I think that if I'm not mistaken, that there's some other items that he wants the DNA tested on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But do you honestly think that a father is going to keep fighting for justice if he or had anything to do with it, or if he thought his wife had anything to do with it? It doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's because there's something wrong to me with that conclusion. My grandma always said, if something doesn't sound right to the ear, that's because there's something not right about it. And can you see John Ramsey just keep fighting for justice to find the killer of his daughter well long after 2008, even though they've been...
The other thing I can't see John Ramsey doing is staging this scene, whether it be to cover his own guilt or his son's guilt. I don't see them going to the lengths. First of all, I've always said, if the Ramseys committed this crime, why write the ransom note? Like, why do the things that they did? Because once they called 911, them being involved, nothing that happened makes sense. Then John Ramsey, not at his own request, but at the request of the officer at the scene, asks him to take one sweep through the house. Why would John Ramsey stage this entire scene with her blanket, the nightgown next to her, the Barbie nightgown, and all of the details, the garage, everything, and then he goes down there and he disturbs the entire thing? He ruined his own staging if John Ramsey had knowledge to the fact that JonBenet was in that room.
You know, I mean, there's, like I said, there to me, there's definitely things. Okay, John Ramsey is a smart dude. Okay, he's a smart man. And then there's that piece of you that says, if you're so smart, why did you pick up your daughter knowing that that was a crime scene? You know, type of thing.
I mean, everything.
Right. But by the same token, you can also say, when you have a child and you see your flesh and blood, that child that you love so much is on the ground, most people do it without thinking. They're just going to go to the child without thinking about anything. They're not even thinking, oh, well, crime scene. They're thinking about that this child that's missing, that they found, and they're just like me. Can I say that I wouldn't race to my son and sit there and go, oh, crime scene, don't touch? No.
Right. The first thing he did was take that tape off of her mouth. If John Ramsey had knowledge to this crime happening, why would he put the tape on in the first place?
Give up.
Every action that the parents took, in my opinion, it is a natural reaction someone would have to finding their daughter in the way that they found her. Even Patsy, when she was brought up and she finally got into that room, she leaned down and put her face next to JonBenet. And I feel like that as a mother, that's going to be your natural reaction. I mean, she was in full rigor mortis when he brought her upstairs, and he still felt like there was he knew that it was her down there, but he still felt like there was a hope. I mean, because I think that's a natural thing that someone would think,
Yeah. For me, because I've listened to... Go ahead. Right.
I was agreeing with Unsolved Mystery. John should have never been put in that position.
No, and he shouldn't have.
The police should have done a 100% full sweep of that house. and they didn't, clearly, because they didn't find her. I've often thought too, how long was the perpetrator in the house after he committed the crime? Was the perpetrator still there when they got up?
You know,
Like, how did that person make their escape?
I mean, right. You know, and I want to say this because, like I said, right now, I'm at the point that I don't know where I sit fully with this case. I'm trying to just look at different things. So I don't really have this, calculated thing of this happened, this happened. I'm still trying to weed through it all because there's things like, for instance, Patsy, okay. No, okay. If your child is missing, I don't know. Are you going to sit there and think to call all these friends over in the frickin' pasture and the frickin' whites and the fleets and I think there was some other one, but so stuff like that is what does throw me off a bit because there are things that they have done that literally don't make sense. Like if people think that John had anything to do with it and that he was the one, I mean, people could look at it, and I'm just doing the devil's advocate here because it's things that I have to think about, right? You have to look at all different angles of it
Of course.
because, like, so you could look at it like, was he really just, he knew that she was down there and trying to ruin the crime scene because now you have all this different DNA and these people everywhere. Now, that doesn't seem like something that I would do. I don't know. I probably would be calling my family. I doubt that I'd be calling any friends to come over. I wouldn't even probably think about that, but I would think to call my mom, my sister. What do you think about that, Adam? About her
I mean,
hanging
I
up?
always find it difficult to speculate on the mindset of people when they're going through panic or trauma. But I mean, they made that 911 call at 5:50, 2 a.m. or 5:50. So I know that the friends arrived sometime later that morning, but she wasn't found until almost 1 p.m. that day. And
Right.
I mean, my life isn't Patsy and John Ramsey's, so
right.
They didn't have any immediate family in Boulder, so I can see where if you thought this was a kidnapping, that you would call the people closest to you that could proximity-wise help you. And in this case, it would have been their friends, not their family.
Right. And the thing is too, I'd have to live in that upper class world because do I feel like that they came across as privileged? Yes, I do. Do I feel like that they live that upper class, what I call snottier life a little bit? Yes, I do. I think that when you come from money or have lots of money, we've seen it happen time and time again where somebody's a nobody in the freaking world of acting and then they get money and then they become total dickheads, and stuff like that. I mean, it just
They're on
happens.
YouTube.
Like they're just, right, or on YouTube. And right, this arrogance all of a sudden comes about them instead of saying grounded. And so I do feel like that the Ramseys had that, to me, that white privilege type of, thing going on there. Again, I'm not from money, so I can't really judge how I would have acted.
Even if you're not from money, I mean, they didn't have family in Boulder. They only had friends in Boulder. So, they if they called their family in Michigan or Atlanta, that's one thing. But I mean, I think that they clearly, I know for me on Christmas Day, I usually spend that day with my family. They went to 2 or 3 different people's homes that day. So clearly they're friends.
They went to one person's home that day.
Oh, I thought they stopped at a couple places.
Oh, sorry. You're correct. That's what people forget about because they don't really talk about it. You're right.
So, I mean, like, to me, that shows the depth of the friendships they had in the area. The fact that they actually went on Christmas Day to other people's homes that weren't in their family.
The one thing that stands out to me about Patsy Ramsey is that again, and I know this, and this is a gut feeling from my own gut, and I think my gut's pretty darn good most of the time. Patsy Ramsey exuded, um, um, you could tell, a big, huge heart, to be honest with you. Anyone that decorates Christmas, Alexa knows this. Deb from Deb's True Crime Notebook would know this. Anyone that spends that type of Christmas, decorating every room with a Christmas tree, that's somebody who truly does have a huge heart behind them. I know that because that's the same way that I am, and the other people that I know. When you come to be one of those kind of caring, giving personalities, those people really just embrace those holidays. They love doing things for the schools, for their kids. They just really epitomize all that in by the actions. Most haters of the world that hate Christmas are grumpy little mothers. Like I said, they humbug, Christmas sucks, whatever.
Right. I mean, JonBenet even had garland in her hair.
Yeah.
Because there was garland on the staircase leading down that most likely got caught in her hair as she was being carried down the stairs. And I do want to say really quickly, I know a lot of people suspect the family, and you know what? If they have involvement, I would say this happened in 1997. Until last 2 weeks ago, I hadn't really looked back into this case, and I've always been under the assumption that Burke did this, and that John and Patsy covered it up to protect the one remaining child they had left. And I kind of resolved myself in my mind that was what happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But honestly, in the last several weeks or a couple of weeks that I've been looking back into this, and I've really examined the evidence in its totality 27 years later, I don't see any evidence that the family did this or covered it up for Burke. I used to be 100% certain that Burke did this, and I have zero confidence in the fact that Burke was responsible for this now.
And you know what, Adam, I'm going to agree with that as well, because back in the day when this happened, you're just listening to the news and you're hearing certain things, but you're not in true crime and you're not digging into it deeper and you're not watching every single video out there. But I had same revelation to me too, is when they ask Burke certain questions. And again, if you guys are believing that the family's involved, again, every right to, it's your personal opinion. When they ask Burke, has your mom, ever basically yelled at you guys, basically spanked you guys, anything that would involve, more of a violent type temper in his mom or dad or anything like that? And Burke's just sitting there going, nope. I mean, he goes, don't get me wrong. She has raised her voice and gotten mad, but nothing. Like they seemed to would never have truly been punished, at all.
Right.
And even John Ramsey, same thing. Like, not a spank. That they don't seem like. Again, they don't have a history of anything showing that they would have done something like this to their daughter, let alone being abusive to their own
Boulder
children.
police wanted to prove that they did it, that they did this, and Boulder police never could come up with ample reason or evidence to support that.
The whole bedwetting thing is a crock of crap to me.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry.
And a lot of people also say that the grand jury that wanted to indict the parents, if you really look into the details of that, because when I formed this opinion, this is based solely on the evidence and the evidence. I've not watched anything like any persuasive type interviews or anything like that. I'm basing this all on the absolute evidence that I've looked at, that's factual. And that grand jury, they felt like the parents could be implicated in this. They could not in the actual committing of the crime, but in putting their daughter in the position where this crime could have been committed. But they couldn't conclusively ever decide what that was. And they did not have the DNA evidence at that point that we have now.
Correct.
They did not know that there was an unmatched male DNA sample in multiple places on JonBenet's body.
Correct. Again, Adam.
I explained that poorly. Sorry.
No, but again, just like you, right? Like I said, I spent the last couple of weeks. I literally, you guys, every night. I really haven't popped out any videos, which I probably should. I really haven't popped out too many videos because almost every part of the day I'm listening to a JonBenet Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey video. And that's to do with the interviews, the Dr. Phil, what's her name? Pauline, the CNN one, all the different ones. Not okay. Like I will listen to what say Pat Brown has to say, but I'm gonna listen to it, and I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt, like I do with anyone to do with like a YouTube channel, because I just really like to get down to the bare bone fact of what we actually know that's out there, not because say Moselle Martin is propagating that she knows that this is his handwriting and stuff like that. I'm sorry, Moselle. I totally disagree with you, but I respect the fact that you believe that you can conclusively feel like you heard it here. Okay, you heard it here. That Sonny Justice is saying maybe you should like revisit your lettering, perhaps, because no DNA, the lettering isn't matched. And honestly, I'm sorry, but when I was watching the court TV on that, I couldn't help. I was laughing, dying laughing inside at how ridiculous they were trying to make those letters look like and overlay them. And when you actually look at the overlay, again, it was a joke to me. And so I'm sorry. Again, there's going to be multiple handwriting experts out there that are going to have different points of view.
And I used to just kind of like go by the like, oh yeah, this does match Patsy's handwriting. And like since I actually have, I mean, because this was 27 years ago, since I've actually sat down and looked at it, and then I've looked at the fact that the handwriting experts that the prosecutor, that the police tried to use as their science, hadn't even like actually looked at the actual ransom note. They didn't have all the case files. The more I looked at the handwriting, the handwriting of the ransom note, I don't feel like it matches Patsy's at all. I feel like there's similarities, but the similarities that there are match 60% of the population of the United States.
The similarities that there are, there's just as many non-similarities, to be honest with you.
Because the similarities that match, like I said, they're so common that they match 60% of people in the United States.
Mm-hmm. The one part of the note, you know what, you guys in chat as well, but for you, Adam, in the ransom note, the one part that bugs me the most, if I was to think about it, obviously that stupid faction thing. I like how when Christina Randall was talking about it, she said fraction.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, it made me laugh a little bit because again, this is kind of a combination of printing, writing together. There's points in here where you're looking at it and it's writing or printing, and then you can see the little attachments, because I do that myself when I'm printing and writing. Whenever I do something, it's always printing and writing together. You'll always find that slight bit going through it. But the end part of this note really bugs me. Now, just to let you know that in 1996, okay, the movie Mission Impossible had come out. I asked AI, my chat GPT, I said, what movie uses the word attache?
Right.
Now, that's not what bugs me.
Well, look at Speed. Look at Speed and Ransom.
Well, I was going to say Mission Impossible came out and they used the word attache in that. Now, to me, this is a somewhat older individual. And again, I can't say for certain if it's a female that wrote this, even though a lot of people have said it's based on female. And because of the A's, typically females do A's. But again, Gary Oliva, he does his A's like this too. So that doesn't mean I'm 100% correct in that and thinking it's female. I'm really not sure because this does have more of the characteristics of a male in certain ways of the writing, just because not always, but typically. But again, if this letter is trying to deceive, but typically females have a little bit nicer writing than this. But I'm not sure still if a male or female wrote this. But I do want to say that
there's a feminine touch to the language in some of it, but then
there
some
is.
of it it's very masculine. And,
Right.
You know,
well,
the stylistic aspect of the writing, in my opinion, is more feminine, but some of the dictation in it is very masculine.
Okay, well, I was going to say, so regardless if it's male or female, to me, this has the older vibe. And the reason why it would, to me, have the older vibe is because, first of all, notice that there was the word hence in there. You guys hear me say hence a lot. You also see the word attache. Okay, now it might have been a word that was used a little bit more back then. The attache, it comes off as more of a, what I just say it's simply a snobby type way of saying briefcase. It's like attache when you're trying to like of a higher class in a sense. Now, don't try to grow a brain is another saying that this isn't a young expression. That don't try to grow a brain is an older. Sorry.
It's also a direct quote from the movie Speed.
Don't try to grow a brain. Okay,
which came out in 1996.
Right. Now, this is an expression, okay? So it could relate to the movie. Again, that they said that this person perhaps liked movies, but the expression grow a brain is an expression, just as that. My grandma used to tell me whenever I was being an idiot, she'd say, grow a brain. And I'd be like, okay, that meant I was doing something stupid. That was a common expression. So I learned that saying from my mom and my grandma because they would say that. So I grew up saying to people sometimes, yeah, grow a brain. It was a common expression for me because I learned it from my grandma and my mom. This isn't a young expression, though, the grow a brain one. Like you don't hear young people go, grow a brain. It's an older expression. So this is why I would deem whoever did this, I'd probably place them probably in their 40s area.
I agree.
I want to put them in their 40s.
I would say between 40 and 50.
Yeah, that's
Especially
where
even if you look at the slang of the 90s, you don't see a young person slang from 1996 in this, in my opinion.
That you don't see what, Adam? Sorry?
You don't see like a young person slang of the time of 1996 in this. There are quotes from certain movies in that time frame, but you don't see language used by young people in the late 90s. So I agree. 40 to 50 was what I thought.
I mean, this last paragraph. So in the whole ransom note, it goes from we to I to we to I, right? And then in this last paragraph, this one is what bugs me the most. Is all of this, don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that Southern sense of yours. Now, I read, and I could be wrong, but when I was listening to something yesterday, it said John's not from the South. It's Patsy that's from the South, not John. but I don't know. I
John's
just
from
read
Michigan,
that.
I believe.
Is that considered south?
No. Michigan's next to Canada.
Yeah, but is that considered south? No. Oh no, it's
No,
down.
that would be
Okay.
north.
You're right. I should know where Michigan is because it's right above, I believe, Ontario, that area over there. It's near like the Great Lakes.
Near Toronto.
Yeah, there we go. So okay, so yeah, so I remember someone saying that it's Patsy that's from the South, not John. But anyways, and then it says it's up to you now, John. And then so meaning throughout this whole thing, and all of a sudden they get to John. Hey, John, grow that brain, John. You're not the only fat cat, John. Basically, John.
Right.
And
And they
that's all.
switched from Mr. Ramsey to John.
Yeah. And we know that there was on the notepad Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey at first, and then they changed it to just Mr. Ramsey. And so what part of the ransom note to you in the whole verbiage going down, what part sticks out to you the most? That thing that just really kind of goes, like.
To me, it's always been the inconsistency in the language of it, not necessarily the style of writing, but the language of, they start with this kind of formal one, like this, small fraction or foreign fraction. They misspell a few words, and then like as it gets to the end, the last paragraph to me is the most interesting. Because I feel like it's the most sincere in their intent, and I still question what those last what that signature stands for. But
Yeah,
and again, I think it's another example of why I don't suspect the family at this point, because I don't see any motive to what that abbreviation could possibly mean if you're the family. And why would they say victory? Was it
SBTC?
SBTC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to look for my computer had shut down, so it took out some of my stuff that I had saved in here. I was going to try to look for the different word spellings. So yeah, SBTC. I mean, that one for me, the SBTC, that one, like, it doesn't bug me because that just reminds me of more bullshit to the, fake ransom note,
Yeah.
And it's kind of,
it's no more significant than a small foreign fraction, but it clearly means something to the person that wrote it.
Yeah, right. Small foreign, like that one just totally makes me laugh. Small foreign faction. What does this one say? Electronic devices. Oh yeah. And then I swear that I've heard this in a movie. If you whenever she dies, you can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are
I think
familiar.
that's from Ransom.
Well, that's what Ransom. Okay, I was thinking Die Hard in my head, but it could have been from the movie Ransom.
It's not a direct quote, but I feel like the she dies aspect to it is from the movie Ransom, even though it was a boy in the movie Ransom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly,
Right.
Helen. Yeah.
And of course, everyone can have their own opinions, Helen. I agree. So, we don't know anything more than anyone else, but I will. My main goal for going back into the Ramsey case is that I had a very preconceived notion as to what I thought happened in this, but really when I started digging back into it, looking at it from the totality of the evidence that we have now versus what we had periodically over the years, I feel completely different. And so anyone that suspects something's very direct and 100%, I encourage you to look back into all the evidence, because I think your opinion might change. Mine did, and I'm not easy. I'm not easily swayed.
Ordinary people. Did One South Mystery ever say if he was the person that sent that email?
No, I don't know.
Unsolved Mystery, did you answer that? Was it you that wanted to come on join us on a live? Because if so, because I'm not sure exactly when Alexa, so it doesn't really matter either way.
If it was, just email us again, and
yeah, and let us know if it was you. Because
the only email that I had was was to both of us, not
because
it wasn't just to me.
Yeah, and if it was, I mean, truly, we would love to have you sitting up on here, giving us the information that you have. Here's my husband sneezing. When I dive into something, I truly put everything I have into something. This case for me, the reason why I felt like it would be a good case to bring back is because this case for me was the one case that has always bugged me all my life, is this JonBenet Ramsey case. It has always sat in my head, wishing all the time, feeling so torn for this poor child that lost her life, and for 27 years later, that there's still no justice for JonBenet. And sadly, there was a lot of mistakes, just like Delphi, and unfortunately, JonBenet's case has not had any closure to it, but there is more, again, since DNA has advanced, and since diving into this case in the last, week or so, a week and a half, again, it's listening to everything. I want to hear it over and over, and I don't want to come to any real big conclusions, besides the fact of just my gut at the moment is feeling like this is someone that knew the Ramseys, had either jealousy, some sort of revenge against them. There was something there to me, jealousy, revenge. I don't know. I'm not really, I don't know why, but I'm not really feeling this whole pedo line myself. I think that that's secondary, but I think that the real reason for it is something different. And I think it's somebody that wanted to pay back the family. I'm not really seeing this. Like, I think it's the most ridiculous thing that all the items that we know about, for the most part, okay, that we know about, are literally from within the house. That it's almost like that they went in, say, prior to JonBenet, and the family being home. And it's almost like that, I don't know. Do you believe that this note was written after she died or before she died?
Before.
Yeah, there's a big piece of me that believes that this note was like written before. I can't see someone spending this much time after that they've killed this child sitting there going, let me just get a notepad. I feel like while they were out, somebody was sitting here concocting this crapola that is in front of us. And go ahead.
I believe they were still in the home when the Ramseys got home that night. Clearly they were. I believe they were still in the home well into the morning.
Right.
After they committed the crime. I do believe they spent time in the home after they committed the murder.
Yeah, again, like I said, I want you to dig into your stuff, and draw your conclusions. And I'm going to dig into it, and draw my conclusions, because that's why I really don't like to watch. I don't like people to plant seeds in my head. Now, I don't feel like if I watch Pat Brown that's going to put anything into my head. It's going to tell me she probably is saying that the same thing about Gary Oliva, that he's not the person that did it to JonBenet. But when it comes to me wanting to put the handwriting samples together, I want to do that. I like to do my own work that way. I like to do my own conclusions and then see, because I do like to deep dive into stuff. I do like to spend my time researching and checking things out, right? Doesn't mean that we're right, but at least it's like a puzzle to me. I like putting puzzle pieces together and see if I can come up with something. But the bottom line is that we're never going to find out who actually did this, besides, like maybe one day.
I think DNA could solve this case. I think the correct the correct use of DNA could absolutely solve this case. I don't know if it could have at the time. I think if this crime were committed today, it would be solved within a year.
Right. So, missing thing. I wish I had your brain right now. Unsolved. Missing things are the rest of the roll of tape, an extra rope, or any extra rope, the stun gun that caused those marks, and 9 pages missing from the middle of the notepad.
Right.
Okay.
And who owns the boots and whose palm print was on that window?
Right. High-tech boots. Now, kind of, okay, so when Burke Ramsey was asked that question.
Or door. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it was on the door, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize.
When Dr. Phil asked Burke about the boots, you know, he said, well, do you have high-tech boots? And Burke was basically like, yeah, could have. I don't know. I owned a lot of boots. I went downstairs a lot. You know, could be my footprint. I don't know. Now, it was said that, thanks, Mustang. It was said that he didn't have high-tech boots. So that meaning that they could have been his boot print had he owned high-tech boots, but apparently he didn't. But that would have made sense if he was downstairs and that part didn't get disturbed. But
he was also 9 years old. So, I mean, they would have specified that that was a child footprint.
You know, exactly. Like, there is definitely a lot more questions, a lot more things that I really need to still learn because, like, for instance, in a lot of these interviews that I've watched, a lot of them aren't really talking too much about all the evidence. A lot of them are simply the Ramseys talking, Dr. Phil and stuff like that. So I haven't spent an overabundance of time on the actual evidence besides hearing, for instance.
I looked up all the files that I could find, like as far
there's-
as like actual evidence.
Yeah, there was this one page that I had which had a whole bunch of files leading to it, and for some reason I closed it off and I couldn't tell you.
I
I'm
can't
sure
remember the name of the. I can't remember the name of those files right now, but
yeah, I mean,
someone in the chat had mentioned the stun gun, and
yes,
we could do a
I wanted
whole
to talk
episode
about
about
that.
it. But I have to say, I was under the impression, like I think a lot of people are, that no, it wasn't a stun gun. It was the train tracks that made those impressions. So the last 2 days, I looked at a lot of train tracks that were used in the 1990s in model trains, and I looked at the samples of stun gun marks on bodies. I know that it's not listed as a burn; it's listed as an abrasion. I think it is in the autopsy. That's a stun gun. Those are stun gun marks on JonBenet's body, in my opinion.
Okay, remember that, the Cora files.
Okay.
I'm going to type that into our thing, the Cora files. Oh, sorry, Adam. So did you say that you believe it's a stun gun?
I believe absolutely it's a stun gun. And I had been under the impression prior that it easily could have been train tracks. And I think after looking the last 2 days, I've looked at quite a bit of examples, and I believe it absolutely was a stun gun and not train tracks. Even just the shape of the marks, I believe that they could have been listed incorrectly in the autopsy as a instead of saying a burn. I think they might have said abrasion. But no, in my opinion, those are not train track marks.
Same. If you would have asked me a long time ago, I would have said, well, it was caused by train track marks or a prong thing. I personally believe, I believe that they said that with the stun gun, that
not if duct tape is on our mouth.
That it wasn't quite the distance, but it was close, and that they did like a stun gun on a pig, and basically showed that. I believe it was a stun gun. If someone was to ask me now, I'm going to believe myself that it's a stun gun to leave those
remember-
type of impressions, not a train track. Yeah.
Skin move, and remember, skin moves. So distance on skin is always going to be different.
Right.
Because if I pinch you, if I put my fingers on you, your skin elasticity is going to make the difference in those marks. And so if you put a stun gun on someone and it's, say, 6 centimeters apart, when you put that on two different people's skin, it's going to measure a different distance because of the elasticity in the skin.
Hey, I just thought of something quickly. Did you ever watch Cop Fax's video that he did on JonBenet Ramsey on this one video? And in it, he had said that he had gotten a phone call. So back when the JonBenet Ramsey case happened, so like he was with the call, like Cop Fax worked in Colorado for many, many, many years. And so he knew Lou Smith, and he was, a detective with whatever it was, Colorado Springs or whatever it was. Well, obviously it must have been something to do with Boulder, because he received a phone. I'd have to go back and listen to it properly. So he said that he received a phone call, and this was something that nobody knew. And then he had put it out in a video a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, when the whole JonBenet thing was ramping up again. And this person called and this person that didn't work for the Colorado police, but was like, what do you want to call it? It's like when you work for a food bank, but you're like not getting paid type of thing. You're getting experience or whatever. Anyways, it was like he was just a regular civilian that was, helping out or whatever he was doing. And anyway, so he gets a phone call about some guy that's saying that he has information about the JonBenet Ramsey case. So the civilian guy that picked up the phone that was helping out in the police station comes across, say, Cop Fax. And he said that the gentleman on the phone sounded irritated because now he had to repeat what he just told the first person. And he said that the phone call went something like, listen carefully. This is about a high profile pedo ring, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, again, sorry, you guys would have to go watch it yourself, but it's Cop Fax's channel. And he's saying that he got this phone call about the JonBenet Ramsey case back in the day of the time, where he gets this phone call that the person says, listen carefully, this isn't a kidnapping. This is about a high profile case. And I think this was at the same time that, okay, there are some weird things, because, like the whole Epstein case was coming about, and that the Epstein's lawyer is the same lawyer firm that John and Patsy Ramsey used, was the same one that Epstein and that Maxwell chick anyways used. And that what was I going to say? Lost my train of thought for a second, people. And that John Ramsey, I think, knew Epstein. And they're trying to show that there's this one picture that looks like Maxine, was it whatever her name is, Maxwell, whatever her name is, Ghislaine, I think, Maxwell. And that it's kind of like they're showing like this half face of her, perhaps at a pageant. But do you know that Ghislaine Maxwell's birthday is December 25th as well? That's crazy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shelly, I just wanted to answer. You asked if a stun gun was used, why everyone didn't hear JonBenet screaming. In I mean, we know that JonBenet's mouth was covered with duct tape, and the sound of a stun gun is loud, but when it's actually pressed against the skin,
Smell
that
like
sound
a
is muffled. That sound is incredibly muffled. And I think that if, you know, a stun gun was used, and I think if JonBenet, if that duct tape was applied while she was in her bedroom, I think no one would have heard her. Again, that's just my opinion, but
I mean,
I don't know how the owner of the company could say that the stun gun doesn't make those marks when I've looked at the comparisons between JonBenet's autopsy photos with those marks that were on her neck or under her ear, and her back, and then I've compared them to stun gun marks. They, in my opinion, look exactly like stun gun marks.
I believe that they are. And I seen Shelley's comment there about that too, and I disagree.
And I respect Shelley, you know, 100%. But I just have to say, you know, I really think if you look back into the totality of this evidence, you might change your opinion on the family's involvement. And if not, that's fine. You know, I still love you.
Well, I was gonna say, like, for me, the stun gun, I'm gonna believe that the hand got put over her mouth first of all, and the hand got put over her mouth and stunned. And again, if you look at where the rooms are in the Ramsey house, okay, that's not something that somebody is probably going to hear, you know, honestly. Their rooms are like, even Burke's room to JonBenet's room.
If you look at the layout of this house, sorry, Sonny.
No, go ahead.
This house is kind of like the Idaho house. The Ramsey house, it was built. There was a house there, and then there was almost like an entirely second house built onto this house. So the layout of this house is insane. If you look at the floor plan, it would be incredibly easy, in my opinion, to see how massive this house really was. It was 6,800 square foot, I think, something like that.
Something like that, yeah, 67, 68.
And like I said, a lot of people don't realize there was an original house there, and they built onto it. And so you have different styles of building, you have different materials used, all sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look. I mean, just trying to look at a couple of this. There was a layout here. But this was the great room.
Even the basement alone, there were like 6 rooms down there.
Oh, I know. It was a huge house. And they literally, their whole attic was their room. And that was up another floor. And why does this one not show? Hold on. Let me go visit this website. House plans for the Ramsey home.
Right. And yeah, Unsolved Mysteries. I know that a lot of people think that the tape was put on after a staging, and that could be. I'm just trying to think of reasons that, you know, that the child wouldn't have screamed. But
okay, why aren't they showing like Burke's room here? No.
I mean,
Say it again.
I think it's silly that you know, like, you know, that John wouldn't have woken up on a melatonin, because I know he said he took a melatonin pill that night.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's silly to be like, oh well, you wouldn't wake up then, because I think if he'd heard something, he still would have woken up. I just don't think there was anything to have heard. But it has been tested by the police. You know, if someone screams in that basement, that someone could hear it from a neighboring house, and they could, but they couldn't necessarily. They could barely hear it from the 3rd floor bedroom.
Because what was it? I mean, basically, if you're at the bottom, you can hear noise up, but when you're at the top, you're not really going to hear the noise down too much, which is true. I mean, that's just a given. Everyone knows when you're down at the bottom.
And they tested that out, which of course is not going to be exact, but but there were reports that neighbors heard screaming between 12 and 2 a.m. So why wouldn't the parents have heard that? Whereas when they did the testing, they could hear the screams of the neighbors, but they could barely hear them, is the wording that was used in the report, on the fourth floor, technically, in John and Patsy's bedroom. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Ivy Rose. Melatonin helps you fall asleep. It doesn't keep you asleep.
So third floor. Okay. So hold on. And then I'm just gonna grab a few pictures, and then we're gonna get heading off here soon enough. But I do want to bring up.
I gotta take my melatonin pill and go to sleep.
Yeah. Are you babysitting tomorrow, or are you working?
I am babysitting tomorrow afternoon. I've got some stuff to do in the morning.
Okay. Yeah. Just okay, let me just quickly bring these in for a second. See, this is all like fresh and new to me, all this stuff. It's like starting from scratch.
Right.
And
While Sunny's pulling that up, I'll say that if for anyone that is looking for something interesting to watch in relation to the Gary Olivia stuff that we talked about earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Dr. Oz, but Dr. Oz did an episode with this Mike guy where he had him on the show, and he also had Nancy Grace on, and they basically spent the entire episode going over the Gary evidence, and I found it really interesting.
You know what? There's a couple of things that still really bugging me. One, I want to know who put that damn pineapple bowl out there. Because did that pineapple bowl not have milk in it? It had milk in it, right?
I don't know if the bowl had milk in it. I'm not sure.
Anyone in chat? No, because I thought that they said that there was milk, that there was milk in the bowl as well, pineapple and milk. You know what was funny is that they said that the fingerprints on the tea glass was Burke's, and of course that the ones on the pineapple bowl was Patsy's, but we all know that a mother is the one that's usually putting away the dishes on there. The pineapple. That darn pineapple is bugging me because everyone's denying the darn pineapple. Somebody put out pineapple.
Right. Ivy, we've done 2 episodes on JonBenet now. And so I think, we'll be looking into JonBenet a bit more.
Oh, we're going to be looking at it. We're going to be massaging it. We're going to be milking it. When I say milking it, I mean, we're definitely going to be doing a lot of different lives and videos on it for sure. Because again, it's like, for me, it's almost like I said, starting from scratch, listening to everything, and then trying to compile that information into the best of your abilities to what you possibly think happened. But at least as well, like I said, I like to learn the information myself as well. And if somebody tells me, hey, did you like, for instance, like the Oz show, I remembered that Oz did a show on it, but I kind of forgot. But now that I know that it was, I haven't watched the Oz show yet. So I'll go and watch that so I can learn some more stuff as well. The fruit veg-like material, which could resemble pineapple, was found in her which takes 2 to 6 hours to arrive there. So the whole Burke head bump theory just doesn't fly, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay, so now this is where, because they've constantly said pineapple. And I looked that up, and it said pineapple takes about 20 to 30 minutes to digest through the system. And they said that pineapple was found in the body. Now, once all was saying the fruit veg, like maybe that's how they classified it. I don't know, on the autopsy. Is there an actual autopsy out? Is there an actual autopsy? I don't even know that yet.
Yeah. And there are someone from the Boulder police leaked autopsy photos.
Yeah. Yes, that I do know. Because I was watching.
Yeah.
I was watching kind of like the movie one of the movies on it, on the Ramsey case. So if anyone doesn't know of this channel, it's called the Ramsey case. Go check it out if you want
They
to.
compiled a lot. They've compiled a lot of material.
Okay.
And some of it's persuasive towards guilt of the family. Some of it's more objective. Some of it's persuasive towards it not being the family.
Right, right. You know, and again, it's just whatever somebody wants to feel. At the end of the day, honestly, we're not going to solve it. We're not. But we can kind of determine if we can eliminate the Ramseys, perhaps. But that would be having to dive deep into the signatures first of all, and just try to determine what makes the most sense. And that's really what it comes down to, using that noggin that God gave you, you know, and using the most common sense in a sense. And people could have different ideas, and yet they still, you know, common sense is saying, hey, I got all this. This is why this makes sense. And it could very well be true. And I could say, hey, well, this is why this makes sense. But it's a matter of using this at least, and not throwing in all these twisted things that don't belong there. Like, meaning, it's not about using a bunch of rumor mills.
Right. Well, and like I said, and a lot of the beliefs that I had in this case, like I'm admitting openly that, you know, a lot of the beliefs I had in this case, once I really started looking back into it, I realized they were very skewed beliefs. They weren't based on actual facts. They were based on just what I'd been told or what I'd heard about the case. But when I really looked back into everything and the actual evidence, my opinion has changed considerably.
Yeah, mine too. And again, so for me, like I said, you know I should probably be popping out some other videos and stuff, but I just keep hitting play. I keep falling asleep to these Ramseys, and then I wake up, and then again, some of them are like a couple hours long, but I want to listen to them over and over again. So that, sorry, you guys, as you get older, trust me, little sticky notes and writing down shit. And I don't normally write down stuff because I'm still convinced that my brain is a photographic memory like it used to be. Ain't that anymore, I'll tell you that much. So I find myself writing down these little questions, you know, as I'm watching, you know, listening to different things that are popping up about what's being said and stuff like that. But again, right now, it's all like over here and here and here and here and here. So I have nothing that's really like, okay, this is, you know, this is my total kind of idea what I believe happened yet. I'm just too busy still going. And thank you, Ivy Rose, for sending that. Thank you so much. And then, yeah, there's all these people like Alex Hunter, and I can't even think of some of the names right now. My head's spinning around. But anyways, you guys, let's just quickly look at the house, and then we need to get going here.
Yeah, I know your husband's got to get to bed, Sonny.
Well, yeah, that too. And you know what? Honestly, although for me, I have enjoyed the night, and that's why I've let it go on longer than we typically would do, is because again, there's so much to this case. There really is, and it's a mind meld. There's so many different things to listen to, and it's just a matter of, first of all, the main thing to me is looking at that ransom note and understanding that if it's not Patsy's, and it's not Gary's, and it's not John Ramsey's, if you can take them out of the equation, because I think it's the most ridiculous thing that someone would write a ransom note covering up somebody from bedwetting, but even just to write a ransom note and their kid is literally in the basement. I'm pretty sure that they probably would have taken their child out of the house, possibly put her somewhere else if they truly did it, and not literally leave her down in the basement. Or let's just write a ransom note that points towards us, you know.
and not to mention, they called 911 before 6 a.m. I mean, they could have waited until 8 a.m., 9 a.m. They could have waited until well later in the morning to call 911 if they were if they had knowledge of this and were trying to cover it up. I mean, the timing of their call to 911 to me shows panic and immediacy in the fact that they just discovered she was missing.
They were legitly supposed to be on a plane going to meet the other children.
Right. At like 10:30 or something, I think
You
it
know,
was.
it's so absurd to me. They're like, for me, this whole bedwetting thing, again, Pat, if there's been no violence and Burke is literally talking and he's saying that no, my mom's like, they basically don't get punished. I probably chances are, because they're pretty darn just good kids. There's no big need to punish them. And it's like me, I didn't, I spanked my son once when he was about 2, and I never touched him again after that because I felt so horrible, so bad. It was not the answer, and stuff like that. And I live and breathe my child, and I can tell that definitely Patsy Ramsey for sure lives and breathes her daughter, JonBenet. Like for me, that's like not to say that Burke isn't in the equation, but obviously Patsy was living vicariously through JonBenet now, because Patsy Ramsey, her sister, were all like pageant winners. And JonBenet, of course, like, her and her mother would have a special bond. There's no way that Patsy Ramsey is sitting there in any way, shape, or form getting upset, especially at Christmas time, because the daughter went to bed, yet alone, Adam.
Patsy
They actually
Ramsey
have,
didn't tie Garrett.
well, but plus not only that, but the pictures they're showing that they said, and I remember this from yesterday, there's no bed that's even been wet. Like there's no stains on the bed from the crime scene. Like they were showing that there was not even a bedwetting that night. It's just the fact that I think JonBenet wet her bed, and then Burke said, well, he did too. And my mom would just wash the sheets, because
her underwear had urine in them, but that also could have been from the trauma that she was going through as she was being killed.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I think that a lot of the things that have been said about Burke, as far as him defecating on her bed and things like that, which I've focused on a lot in the past, are much more conjecture and rumor than factual.
Yeah. Again, we like facts. We like we don't mind speculating on certain things, but if it's not even been said that for sure that Burke was putting feces, I'm not going to believe it. I'm going to push that off to the side, because all I want to learn is the facts of the case. Things that, even if they're, say, not true, because you have because you have the Colorado police saying this and you have the Patsy Ramsey saying this. Regardless, at least they're involved in the actual case, and then it's just for you to decipher what you believe more so. Like, did the Patsy Ramsey, the Ramseys avoid the media? And I you know what, in wholeheartedly here, I was totally really feeling so bad for the family when I was thinking about the family yesterday, because I think part of something I was watching yesterday is when they were moving out of, they had to sell their Atlanta home because obviously it ruined them
financially.
It financially, I mean, yes, John Ramsey probably has about 5 mil or whatever it is, and Burke Ramsey sued CBS and stuff like that, but bottom line is it just literally ruined them, right? And anyone that has watched the show knows that I called out a BG, KD was his name, and I was like 100% sure this is the BG and whatever. Like I said, I totally learned my lesson. I'm not here to try to ruin somebody's freaking life. Especially, like I said, learn my lesson. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was 100% correct. Well, right, come bite me back in the butt, because obviously Richard Allen was is the BG, at least to me, definitely. And I just learned my lesson from that. So it's just a matter of looking at the facts, and just like that whole Tyler Feller thing, putting up 100% fact that Gary Oliva did this. Dude, come off your high perch on there and remember that. Again, yeah, like I said, he's not going to be sitting in no court of law going, I 100% have the evidence to prove this and stuff like that. So why are you pretending that on YouTube? It's just a viewer grab.
And the Gary Olivia stuff is not, that's not new information. That the Mike guy himself says he called law enforcement that day one, He said he called the tip line. As soon as he heard about JonBenet, that he called and reported Gary. So, law enforcement has known about Gary Olivia since
a long time,
1996.
Yep.
And they've looked into him.
Like
and Ivy Rose, I think that your opinion will change. It might not. And, and if it doesn't, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
But when you look back into it, look at the facts and look at the evidence, not the opinions of people, even us.
I think, yeah, I mean, I would hope that Ivy knows that, because Ivy's a smart chick.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, and any time that she wants to come on here and give her feelings and version of what she thinks, but definitely for me too, it's like, okay, here's the facts of what they've said, what makes sense, da 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 da. And again, it doesn't mean that the conclusion can't come back to the Ramseys or whatever. I'm just not feeling it at this moment. I'm not feeling it in the mom. I look for people's hearts. That's who I am. Pardon?
I don't think the evidence supports it.
To me, the evidence, I think that the again, that they did try to make the narrative fit what they wanted it to be. I do think that the Ramseys did some strange things, for sure. But again, when someone's in their situation, we really honestly can't cast stones on how we would handle anything, because we don't know unless we're living that nightmare ourselves. But that's where we can look at the facts and what makes sense. And to me, again, one of the biggest starting things is looking at the ransom note, looking at John and Patsy's writing both, spending that time looking really good at each of the handwritings of everything. What doesn't make sense, like if you look at the T's, those don't make sense to Patsy Ramsey. But the A's make sense to Patsy Ramsey.
Right.
Again, but if you look at, say, Gary, well, again, if he's sitting there using that little curvy A, and yet in the ransom note, there's kind of like it's 50-50, maybe 60-40, 60 where they got the arc or a partial of the arc, and then others where there's no arc whatsoever and it's just flowing. But if you look at Gary's, every A was done like that. Now, was he trying to come across looking like that and portray that he was, JonBenet's killer? That's all I'm going to leave it out with the Gary guy. I'm not buying the story of Gary. The DNA doesn't support it. And to me, the handwriting samples don't support it either. Again, I think that they tried to, make a freaking duck look like a swan in his handwriting. And to me, they just don't jive enough. And I thought that they were really bad samples to use. You're not going to try to convince me, well, hey, if you curve the A this way a little bit, it still has that. No, I'm sorry. Again, Patsy Ramsey, who I don't believe did it, I still think that her handwriting was closer than Gary's, because we are taught a certain way to do things, and a lot of people's are going to look at that way. But looking at both their handwriting and looking at what doesn't make sense to Patsy's or John's and vice versa, same thing. So before we get going, this is JonBenet's room right here on the second floor. As you can see, Burke's room, like he had said, it's way down over here. Now, Patsy and John's room is, of course, on the whole top attic floor here.
Which is technically, from the basement, would be the fourth floor. 3 stories above.
3 stories, yeah. Now, this here is stairs to the second floor, and then there's this spiral case that's right here, John and Patsy's bedroom. Now, again, I don't have that properly. I only picked this up really quick, but whoops. But oh, there's a dog outside barking. So their room is going to be up here, but again, and here's one of the spiral staircases here. I'm not sure if it's where here it goes up. Spiral staircase. Shut up, dog. I love you, dog, but shut up. It's not my dog. It's a neighbor's dog, obviously. But anyways, so meaning when you're up there to down there, that there's quite still a bit of a distance. I think John, he said it was about 30 yards, I think is the term he used for it. I'm going to have to get a better picture, a better example here to show you guys. But to me, that's one of those things, again, You know, I mean, I haven't a hard enough time hearing something when it's just out in the living room on the same darn floor, let alone they're literally up on the another whole floor above. And it's not like their bed is like distinctly over her bedroom. I can easily see someone coming into the room and, taking her, in Burke's room is
Right.
like way over there.
And Shelley, I want really quickly, Shelley, you're saying there were not enough markers to run it. They ran that DNA and they were able to eliminate from that DNA the family and also Gary. They were also able, from the markers they had, to say that the DNA from underneath JonBenet's fingernails, from the long johns, and from the panties all
Pubic
were
hair.
consistent. What?
And don't forget the pubic hair.
And yeah, we're all consistent with one male DNA sample that was Caucasian and didn't match anyone in the family or Gary. So
Yeah.
they were able to get enough markers to put it into CODIS. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, all I know is that I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to look into it and all the different things that they've said and not said, and see in time here as we do more lives on it and videos, where the truth lies in some of that, because obviously you can see right now that a lot of people thought she was ambidextrous. She's not ambidextrous, but yet that's been put out there. And I don't even know, I guess somebody said that. Somebody had questioned it about that. So again, people, do the homework, come back, write all your facts down that literally came from the thing, and then see where we stand on it. Because I'm just going to go by the facts, and I'm not going to go by any rumors whatsoever. I'm just going to go by the facts of the case, because that's what
Make
matters.
sure they're facts.
Yeah, make sure they're facts. I'm not going to listen to some random podcaster that's talking about the case, because I listened to the Web Sleuths and I listened to this one called something like Higher Hill or whatever it was. And honestly, there was information in there that they were spewing off that was not factual. And they literally had, so meaning people that are listening to them are literally, okay, for instance, let me tell you one here, and tell me one solved mystery if you have heard this. Okay. One of the things that on that Higher Hill podcast or whatever it was, they said that the note was actually in an envelope and that Patsy Ramsey opened up. Yeah.
No, it was laid
up.
out in three. It was laid out across the stair. On one stair, it was laid out side by side.
Yeah, I think that in most things that they show, it's on the bottom stair, like the bottom staircase. I think some people, I always remembered it as like the third one up for some reason. But yeah, no, exactly, right. So when I heard that, I'm like,
I think Patsy said the second or third, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like somebody tweaking a little much there or something,
Right.
because.
And I don't know if the pubic hair matched, but the DNA that they found that was not part of the family, that was not a family member or Gary, was one Caucasian male, and it was found in the sample from inside the blood of the panties, on the long johns and underneath JonBenet's fingernails.
Yeah. And Ivy, yeah, right. I mean, we all do, right? I'm like I said, unless it's fact type of thing.
Yeah.
But when I heard that, and that wasn't like, I heard quite a few different things being said, and I'm just like, I don't remember that. And that one caught me the most, was the one where they said that the note was actually in an envelope first, and she had to open it up. So, let's clear this up too. John said himself that Patsy handed him the letter. He did not just go on all fours and didn't touch the letter. He clearly stated that Patsy gave him the letter and he read it. Then he went in to, I think, the living room or whatever, and spread them out on the floor. But after he had already touched them. And I'm pretty sure that I would be willing to say at this point, not fact, but I'm pretty sure that that note would have been handed around to all the friends as well. You know, that would make sense that they would be doing that, because the friends were there before the cops came, had arrived there. But anyways, but that's just what I heard, but it's not fact. But I do know that John Ramsey said factually that he was handed the ransom from Patsy Ramsey. So if people are just thinking that he was on all fours and he didn't touch it, false. It's false. Oh no, I'm gonna have to. Yeah. Hi Michelle. Oh, how are you? Okay, you guys. You guys in chat again. Thank you. I know Unsolved Mystery. I know you're doing a lot of typing, and Shelly as well. You know, and Ivy Rose. Thank you guys again for participating. It is really hard to kind of go between talking and then going and reading everything that everyone says. It's just, you know, I mean, I wish I could retain all of this information and stuff like that. I believe it was the core files you said. I'm going to go listen to the Oz one today as well.
And Shelly, look up the core files.
Yeah.
I know that the media thing, the media article that I've seen it multiple places. I know ABC News reported what I was saying about the single male DNA, but it's not dispute. I don't think that's even disputed by Boulder police at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna get going. My husband, Adam, needs to do stuff. It's 3 hours difference. I'm Pacific Standard Time. He's Eastern Standard Time. And regardless to, my husband needs to get going to bed, and I need to go make his lunch for tomorrow. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. Again, if you haven't liked the video, please give the video a like and a share. And again, hopefully sometime in the near future, Alexa can come on and join us. But if not, again, Unsolved Mystery, if that was you, just email back to either Adam or the Crime and Shame, or just CC both, and let us know if that was you that wanted to come join us on the live. And other than that, again, very, very, very mind-melding case, but very interesting again to kind of come back to it, because it's a case that meant a lot. Anyways, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
All right. You guys take care. Have a great night. And we'll see you on Friday night. I'm not sure. Yeah, we're just going to put out whatever we do. I'm not sure what we're going to do. Could be JonBenet Ramsey again. Could be the LISC, Long Island SK. Not really sure. Well, me and Adam will talk and we'll decide. Okay. Surprise. Okay, guys, take care. This is Sunny Justice and Aspen Connor from It's a Crime and Shame, wishing you all a good night.